Rain, total tragic backstory hero. We are talking miserable, dirt poor, and totally neglected. Dude, he had to watch his family get incinerated by a demon when he was just a little kid. Brutal. Then, to make things worse, he ended up in some hero's party who basically enslaved and abused him. Talk about a raw deal. And after all that bullying, their scummy leader totally booted him, calling him as worthless as his traitor mom. Oh, and get this, the leader had apparently just spent the night with her. Major yikes. Rain heard that and bam, punched arrows right in his gross face, told him to never disrespect his mother like that again, and then bounced from the party. But wait, there is a twist. That is when the real tea spilled. Turns out, Rain had been faking being useless this whole time. He was secretly rocking an overpowered development system that could tame any supernatural creature, and he had a forbidden power to literally destroy the entire world. Talk about keeping secrets. So, Rain finally managed to scrounge up enough cash for a decent meal after like 2 weeks of starving. Suddenly, he hears a girl screaming her head off nearby. He races over, and what does he find? A super cute cat girl about to become lunch for a giant tiger. Not ideal. The tiger is about to pounce. Rain tries to be a hero and stab its neck, but his crappy blade snaps like a twig, and he gets yeeted into a tree. The tiger is closing in for the kill, and Rain, bless his heart, tells the girl to run, totally ready to sacrifice himself to buy her some precious seconds. But hold up, this girl is not no damsel in distress. She is like, nope, not happening. She vows to use all her strength, leaps into the air, and then bam, kicks the tiger so hard it is instantly knocked out cold. Talk about a power move. Rain sees her insane strength, and it clicks. There are 4 known supernatural species, but one is so ridiculously rare, it is basically a myth. And guess what? She tells him she is a cat spirit, the rarest of the rare. Rain rushes to catch her before she completely collapses right into his arms. Her last words, I want to eat your meat. Hold up, what? Turns out she was just like super hangry, not actually dying. Phew, crisis averted. She starts chowing down on some meat, thanking Rain for saving her empty stomach because she had not eaten in days. Then she introduces herself as Conid, one of the last living cat spirits out there. Rain introduces himself, and she just sits next to him, casually says she is glad an ugly guy like him saved her, and asks him to spill the tea on himself as they head back to the Adventurers Guild. Savage, Conid, savage. Rain actually opens up and tells her his whole sad life story, realizing she is the first person who has ever actually listened to him. Conid hears it all and feels totally bummed that such a kind dude got treated like garbage, but Rain just gives her a head pat and says he is chill. After he strokes her hair, she looks at him and says she knows he is strong. Even though he is all like, nah, I am just a useless beast tamer, she is totally convinced he can tame her. She had this epiphany when he saved her life. He might be the only human ever who can tame a freaking cat spirit. So, get this, she actually offers to let him tame her. Rain's first thought is, okay, a supernatural ally could help me save people, but then he has this moment of clarity. It does not even matter that she is supernatural. He just genuinely wants to get to know her better. So, he takes off his glove, bites his finger. Ouch. Draws some blood, and extends his hand to her. He starts chanting the taming spell, and these magic seals totally engulf Conid until a special seal appears on her arm, officially marking their pact. So cool. Once it is done, she sees the symbol that ties them together, and Rain, he is totally mind blown. He cannot believe this is not a dream, and that he actually tamed a cat spirit. Like, for real. She reaches out, grabs his hand, and they just start running together. Adventure time! Okay, so they hit up the Adventurers Guild, and this lady, Ruby, totally congratulates Rain for finishing his first quest and leveling up to F rank. But like, immediately after, she is wondering how this ugly, stinky loser somehow managed to snag such a gorgeous girl. Oof, shade thrown. Rain has his 50 copper pieces from the quest, but he quickly realizes that is nowhere near enough for a room, and Ruby, ever the charmer, reminds him that no girl would want to share a room with someone who stinks that bad anyway. Then, out of nowhere, some total jerk just waltzed right up to them. He was all like, whoa, a cat spirit. I have not seen one of those before. And then he had the audacity to tell her to ditch the ugly scum she was hanging out with. Rude much? Kanad was not having it though. She totally blew up at the guy, yelling that Rain was her super strong, super handsome master, but this dude just laughed right in her face, thinking there was no way someone so weak could tame a super rare supernatural species. Seriously, what a clown. Kanad insists Rain is stronger, which just makes the dude challenge Rain to a hand fight to test his so-called power. And get this, he says Kanad will be the prize for the winner. The audacity. He keeps taunting Rain, being a total jerk. Rain is thinking, if I do not do this, this creep is just going to keep harassing Kanad, so he accepts the challenge. You have got to respect that. The guy then tells Rain, do not cry when he breaks his arm. Oh, the foreshadowing. The second the fight starts, boom, Rain puts all his strength into it, slams the guy's arm down so hard it breaks the table. And the guy's arm too. Everyone is shook, even Rain himself. Kanad, beaming, totally raises Rain's hand happily and announces him as the winner. Meanwhile, the dude is on the floor, just screaming his head off about his broken hand. Deserved, honestly. Just then, Natalie walks in to see what all the fuss is about, immediately recognizes the guy as the usual troublemaker. She actually apologizes to Rain, explaining that the guild knew this guy was a problem, and they had been thinking about yanking his license. While he is still writhing around, he actually grabs Natalie's skirt, which totally totally sets her off. So, what does she do? She grabs a whole table and clocks him over the head with it. Iconic. As Natalie turns to leave, she asks Rain, super sternly, "Okay, but seriously, how did you contract an ultimate species during your test?" Rain and Kanat are kind of thinking she is mad, but then she apologizes again. She tells him happily that they expect big things from him now that he has such a strong partner. Then Natalie just casually picks up the passed out guy and drags him out like a sack of potatoes as she leaves. What a legend. Rain looks at his hand, totally bewildered, wondering how he even pulled that off. Kanat explains that when he is contracted to an ultimate species, it totally amplifies his own power. She tells him he is basically as strong as she is right now. Rain had no clue, because, well, who even knows anyone contracted to an ultimate species? Kanade then says she was super happy he stood up for her. And then, all hyped up, she says they should go do their adventuring jobs right now. A few hours later, though, Kanad is looking totally bummed, because guess what? They are just picking herbs. She was totally expecting something super exciting. She literally screams at him in frustration like, "Dude, we are supposed to be rescuing princesses or hunting for legendary swords, not doing chores." Rain reminds her that he is still at the bottom of the ranks, so it is basic jobs for them right now, but then she gets all fired up and promises to gather all the herbs so they can rank up faster. Get it, girl. Then she turns around and sees Rain actually praising a bunch of rabbits for bringing the herbs. Ha! She sadly tells Rain she wanted to get the herbs, then screams at the rabbits for hogging all the attention, because she wanted head pats too. So cute, so funny. Rain says they have to head back to the guild, but Kanade suddenly senses something weird, and they are off running to check it out. And what do they find? A whole crew of thugs, the Ebon Fangs, totally ganging up on an old merchant. Kanad warns Rain that these guys are ruthless and there are, like, 100 of them, but Rain is all, "Nope, we have to stop them." Rain says he will jump in and handle the bad guys while she takes care of the old man, so they both charge in. Rain is fighting off the gang members, and Kanad is busy protecting the old man, but then Kanade turns to stare at Rain, thinking he is going to be a super awesome beast tamer someday. She is kind of worried, though, that because of her power, maybe he will not be able to control it, or it might mess with his head. She even thinks it might be safer if she fought instead of him. Ah, protective. As she keeps watching him fight, she sees him totally holding his own, and she cannot help but just admire him, totally forgetting what she was supposed to be doing. Rain finishes his fight and calls out to her. That is when she realizes, oh wait, I was supposed to be protecting the merchant. Rain notices she is all red in the face and worriedly asks if she is hurt. So sweet. Kanat is totally embarrassed, but tells him it is amazing how he fought without any weapons. Rain explains they were trained in martial arts, so that they could tame animals without actually hurting them with weapons. Smart. The old man thanks them profusely for saving him. Rain asks why he was traveling solo. The old man says he hired guards, but they totally bailed the second they saw the Ebon Fangs. Classic. He is worried the gang will come back for revenge now that this has happened. Rain, ever the hero, says if they are that dangerous, then he needs to capture all of them. Both the old man and Kanade are totally shocked. Kanade literally has to run after him, as he just walks off to take on a whole gang. Later, as they are heading to the gang's hideout, yeah, he is actually going. Kanade tries to talk him out of it, but Rain is like, nah, if we bail, that merchant is probably dead meat. Kanad is still totally freaked out, but Rain reassures her he has a plan up his sleeve. They finally get to the hideout, and Rain actually thanks a squirrel for leading the way. Classic Rain. Kanad is super frustrated because she wanted to find it herself, but the squirrel totally beat her to it. Lol. Rain tries to cheer her up, telling her she has been a huge help anyway. She asks about his plan, and Rain explains he made a contract with, wait for it, an Arby? Apparently, these Arbies have a paralytic sting that knocks anyone out for a whopping 12 hours. Talk about a power nap. Kanad is shocked. She thought bees were just insects, so how could he tame them? Rain calmly explains that he learned how to be an insect tamer too. What? Kanad is totally amazed by his skills, telling him he is just full of surprises. Rain says he is going to send the bees into the hideout and tells her to go into town and get some backup. Kanade gets all sad again, thinking Rain always does the heavy lifting and she is not really helping him at all. Ah, do not worry, Kanade. Rain assures her that she is helpful. She asks him what kind of help he meant, and Rain tells her to grab some adventurers and also report to the knights. He explains that the knights are all about keeping the peace, so they will totally come if she tells them about the bandits. She tells him to be super careful, and Rain promises to book it if things get too crazy. Then she is off. The Arby he contracted shows up with a whole swarm of friends, and Rain makes contracts with all of them too. Talk about a team up. Meanwhile, in another part of town, we have got Mina and Lean, totally out of breath and looking rough. Mina gasps that nobody followed them. Yep, turns out these two were the guards, who totally bolted when the Ebon Fangs were messing with the old merchant. Cowards. Lean gripes that she thought it would be quick cash, but instead they ran right into a whole bunch of bandits. She wishes they had just gone to hang out with nobles, with Arios and Agath instead. Lol, priorities. Mina reminds her she was the one who called that a waste of time before. Lean is still like, yeah, it is a waste of time. Why do we have to suck up to rich people who are not even royalty? Then, she angrily grabs the poor young beast tamer they hired to replace Rain. She is all, you could not even buy us time and you ran away first. The guy meekly says he is a beast tamer, not a fighter. Mina asks why he did not scout the area right. She is like, you only contracted one squirrel? Lean is all, he should have contracted like 20 of them. The tamer is shocked, saying that is not possible. Most beast tamers cannot even manage talking to one beast, let alone contracting multiple at once. He explains that beast tamers usually only tame one at a time, and trying to do more would literally fry their nervous system. Yikes! Lean suddenly remembers that Rain can totally tame dozens of beasts at the same time. The plot thickens. She then threatens the poor kid with her magic, telling him he better take the blame for the failed mission, and that nobody can ever know they were involved. What a villain. The boy fearfully agrees and hightails it out of there. Mina starts to bring up Rain, but Lean cuts her off and just leaves, clearly also thinking about Rain, and totally not wanting to believe what the kid just spilled. Inside the cave, things were wild. Bees had totally paralyzed the bad guys. Rain was like, "Thanks, Bees," and noped out of that contract with them. Just when things were looking grim, Kanad shows up, bringing the cavalry with her. The other adventurers were super impressed. "Whoa, Rain, you took on this whole gang solo. We got the rest." Rain thanked them, but noticed no knights. The adventurers told him, "Nah, the knights bailed. They didn't want to come." Typical, right? He gave Kanad a proud pat on the head, thanking her for the assist, and she was all smiles, happy to help. But wait, the ground started shaking, like seriously rumbling. Then, bam! Giant king lizards busted out of their cages. Rain was totally caught off guard. "What are cranked monsters doing here?" One of the gang members, still kinda alive, was like, we keep them for when we get attacked, duh," and screamed at them to attack. Big mistake. One lizard just went, "Nope," and insta-killed him, then went berserk on everyone. Rain, being Rain, landed a sick punch, dropping one of them. Kanad, not to be outdone, also went full beast mode, leaving the adventurers with their jaws on the floor. Rain shouted, "Clear the cave, leave these monsters to us." As they were fighting, Rain had this whole reflection moment. He thought, man, the old me would have been totally useless, but now with Kanade, I'm unstoppable. Outside, the other guys were probably sweating, wondering if Rain and Kanad were goners. But then, boom, our dynamic duo walks out of the cave, totally victorious. The crowd went absolutely wild, cheering and shouting their names. Rain was feeling himself. He couldn't believe this was the same guy who got kicked out of the hero party. He looked at Kanade, so grateful, and told her, "Seriously, with you by my side, I feel like I can do anything." Kanad was just over the moon. Later that evening, Kanad was literally bouncing with excitement, leaping onto the bed, stoked to be sleeping in a real bed. But Rain, he just froze at the doorway, dreading the possibility of sharing a room. Oh boy, he starts doing a quick recap in his head. So, taking down that gang was a huge deal, right? They were up super late hauling the bad guys to jail. Then, they got called to the guild for their reward. A ton of cash, and a promotion to E rank. Sweet, they splurged on some new gear in town and celebrated with a massive feast. Life was good. After all that, they tried to book 2 rooms, but the innkeeper was like, "Nope, only one left." He tried to bolt, but she basically dragged him to the room anyway. Yikes. Kanad snapped him out of his internal panic. "Come on, Rain, try the bed. It's super comfy." But Rain, ever the gentleman, or maybe just totally awkward, turned to leave, declaring he'd just camp outside. Kanade quickly stopped him, reminding him, "Dude, we paid for a whole week." Rain was firm. "I can't sleep in the same room as a girl, and seriously, don't trust anyone, not even me. I'm still a stranger." He tried to leave again, but Kanade, with a sweet sincerity, said, "But I do trust you. You're different, and we're comrades. Even if we just met, I can't let my comrade sleep outside." Rain was totally touched by that. Plus, he realized there were 2 separate beds in the room anyway. Crisis averted, he decided to stay. As Kanade continued exploring the room, Rain just watched her, a proud smile on his face. That night, Kanade watched Rain sleep, and she couldn't help but think about what a good guy he was. She started thinking about her own past. Cat spirits like her are super rare ultimate species, which is why everyone and their grandma tried to catch her for money, greed, or glory. But Rain, he was totally different. He was just genuinely surprised to meet her and even tried to save her out of pure kindness. He actually cared about getting to know her, and that made her so happy. She noticed Rain might still be hurting from getting kicked out of his old party, but he never showed it, always just smiling. And right then, she made a silent promise. She'd make him smile for real. A week flies by, and we see Rain and Kanad just chilling, happily picking herbs. Rain's inner monologue is like, "Man, this adventurer life is awesome." Later that day, they hit up the guild, and Natalie drops some news. "Hey, so, there's this guard dog of Stride Bridge causing all sorts of trouble, picking fights with anyone trying to cross." She explains, "Nobody's actually been killed. They just get beat up and the dog leaves once it feels it's won." Natalie practically begs Rain to take the job. Rain's like, "Us? E-ranked? Are we even qualified?" But Natalie says it's open to all ranks, and the reward? 5 shiny gold pieces. Rain and Kanad's eyes practically pop out. 5 gold for that? They immediately agree. When they get to the bridge, Kanad is totally stoked. It's her first time on a huge bridge. Rain explains, "It's the only way to get from the central continent to their town, Horizon, down south." Kanade's just taking it all in, eyes wide with amazement. She asks Rain, "What kind of person do you think this guard dog is?" Rain's also scratching his head because all the witnesses are alive but refuse to say anything about who it is. Super sus. Suddenly, Kanad points to something in the sky, and both their jaws drop. It's a dragon, and it's coming straight for them, landing with a massive explosion. When the dust settles, out walks a young girl. She immediately challenges them to a fight. Our duo is totally flabbergasted. The dragon is a girl. Rain asks if she's the one causing all the chaos on the bridge, and she's like, "Yep." Yep, she introduces herself as Tanya, an ultimate species dragonoid, and declares the bridge is her personal training ground. Kanade quickly explains to Rain that dragonoids, once they hit 15, have to go on a journey to become super strong. Tanya is all, I've been looking for someone strong enough, and you two will totally do. I'm not leaving this bridge until we fight. Rain's thinking, how am I supposed to fight a dragonoid? But Kanade reminds him, hello, I'm an ultimate species too. Tanya lunges at Rain, but he's fast, catching her hand mid-attack. Tanya's actually impressed by his speed, but even with that, she still manages to send him flying backward. You passed the first test, she shouts. Then she unleashes a torrent of fire. Rain and Kanade dodge, but Kanade's tail gets a little singed. Ouch. She jumps around in pain as Rain rushes to pat out the flames. Kanade looks at her tail, then glares at Tanya. You really shouldn't have done that. And then, full rage mode. Kanade charges Tanya, attacking her with everything she's got. Rain watches in pure awe as the two girls are perfectly matched. He decides to jump in, and together, they both attack Tanya. But this girl is no joke. She blocks their combined assault. In a crazy move, she grabs Rain by his arms, Kanade by one foot, spins them around like a whirlwind, and then launches them into the sky. Talk about a power move. Then, she blasts them with fire from her hands. When the smoke clears, Tanya is totally surprised to see them totally fine. Turns out, our duo used their feet to boost themselves away from the blast. Smart. Tanya actually compliments them for lasting so long. Rain's head is spinning. How are we supposed to win against someone this powerful? He quickly tells Kanade, buy me 3 minutes. I've got a plan. Kanade's on it, immediately re-engaging Tanya while Rain darts off to find some birds to tame. The two girls are going all out, dishing out and dodging blows swiftly. Tanya's wondering how long Kanade can keep it up, and Kanade just casually tells her, Rain has a plan. Rain's mind is racing. Dude, that was supposed to be a secret. He focuses his power, finds a bird, casts a spell, and tells it, go get some friends. Talk about a stealthy operation. Rain comes back to the fight, telling Kanade, leave the rest to me. Tanya asks, am I fighting you next? Rain smirks, nope, you're fighting the birds. And then, a flock of birds swoops in, pecking all over Tanya. They can't actually hurt her, but she's still super annoyed. She angrily swats them away, mocking Rain's attempt, and tries to attack him again. But then, wham, she falls to the ground, totally unable to move. Rain introduces her to his new bird buddies. Pedo birds, he explains that their bright tails mean they're poisonous, and the poison should keep her down for a while. Genius. Tanya finally gives up, defeated. Okay, you won. Our duo celebrates with a triumphant hug and a scream of joy. Rain tells Tanya, you gotta come with us now. Tanya immediately thinks he wants to sell her, but Rain quickly clarifies, nah, I just want to talk. He tells her to promise not to block the bridge again. Tanya, being Tanya, asks, what if I refuse? Rain just laughs, then you'll be in for a real fix if you do. Tanya grumbles, calling him a weirdo, and says he should have just tried to sell her. Lol, Kanade gives her a little pinch on the arm. Don't cause trouble for Rain, and Tanya, yelping in pain, quickly agrees, begging her to stop. They head back to the guild to report, and Natalie legit screams in surprise when she hears they actually off the guard dog. She's all like, awesome job, and promises his reward once they double check his story. Then she points and asks, who's Tanya? Rain awkwardly tries to block her, but Natalie totally spots the tail and horns anyway. Rain freaks out, yelling it's just a costume, but Tanya just shoves him aside and tries to introduce herself. Rain, quick as a flash, clamps his hand over her mouth and hauls her out of there. Outside, he's telling her, seriously, you can never tell anyone you're that guard dog. But he turns around, and poof, Tanya's gone, already asking some knight to fight her. A bunch of kids are staring at her tail like, whoa, and she tries to spill the beans again, but Rain and Kanade swoop in and shut her down. They drag her somewhere private and give her a super serious warning. Zip it, don't say a word to anyone ever again. Rain's like, okay, just get out of town. We won't hurt you, but you have to promise not to pull anything like this again. They ask her why the heck the guys she beat up didn't just rat her out. Tanya just shrugs and says, oh, they just weren't too thrilled about getting clobbered by a girl. Duh. Tanya's actually kind of surprised Rain didn't just hand her over to be arrested. They ask what she's gonna do about her training, and she drops a bombshell. She's decided to join them. The duo is totally floored and asks, why? Tanya just grins and says, cause it was fun hanging out with you guys. Then she totally hugs Rain and casually says she likes him. Kanade immediately screams for her to let him go, and Tanya, being Tanya, starts making fun of Kanade. Rain says he's actually cool with Tanya joining their crew. Kanade, totally annoyed, grudgingly agrees she's fine with it too. Tanya then asks Rain to seal the deal and form a contract with her. Rain casts the spell, like he always does, and Tanya says her name, officially sealing the contract. Kanade tells her to check her palm, and she does. She looks at it and says she feels super connected to him. Rain is absolutely mind blown that he just contracted 2 ultimate species. Tanya pinches his face to snap him back to reality. Later that evening, Arios is absolutely furious. They've been stuck in the woods for a whole week for literally no reason, and everyone's totally wiped. Then it hits them. They're stuck doing all of Rain's old chores. Arios vows to drag him back and just fake an apology. He reminds them, come on, Rain's a total softie. He keeps going, saying they can just ditch him again once they've cleared the lost wood. Meanwhile, back at the inn, Rain's peacefully snoozing on the floor while the girls are legit arguing over who gets to watch him sleep. So, Tanya's officially in the squad, and their very first mission? Kicking some slime butt. Tanya's all fire, burning burning them to a crisp, while Kanad zips around, sniffing them out. Rain explains that slimes are like super basic F-ranked monsters. Anyone can take them down, so most adventurers don't even bother. But if you ignore them for too long, these goo balls multiply like crazy and totally trash farms. Kanade tells Tanya she totally hates fighting slimes because they get her all sticky. Tanya just grins and says, "Leave them to me. I'll just mow them all down with fireballs." Kanad is absolutely stoked and thanks her big time. They keep chattering away happily while Rain watches, super happy that his girls are getting along so well. The trio hunts for slimes but has no luck, so Rain calls over a bird and tells the girls he's gonna assimilate and scout ahead himself. He casts a spell and bam, faints. The girls are totally shocked. They get super worried, but then they hear his voice. Coming from the bird, he explains he just transferred his consciousness into the bird, letting him control its body. Rain says it's called assimilate, one of the Beastmaster's sweet skills. The girls are totally blown away he can even do that. Rain tries to tell them most beast tamers can do it, but they just scream at him, like, "No way, that's not true." Rain just flies off, telling them to guard his body. A bit later, they stumble upon this massive pool of slime. Kanad tries to go all out on them, but Tanya stops her cold. She asks Rain if he knows any spells. He says he can only do the super basic stuff, like heal and fireball. He tried learning more way back, but those two were all he could ever manage. Tanya tells him to blast that slime pool with his fireball spell. Rain's like, "Nah, my fireball's not strong enough," but she totally pushes him to try anyway. Rain focuses, casts the spell, and whoosh, a massive fireball erupts, wiping out all the slime. Rain and Kanad are absolutely stunned. Tanya explains that since his contract with Kanade gave him her strength, his contract with her basically gave him the magical powers of a dragonoid. She adds that her fire is also magic powered, and oh yeah, dragon magic is like the second most powerful among ultimate species. Rain doesn't understand a single thing she just said. Just then, more slimes show up, so Tanya's like, "Perfect, we'll use these for Rain's practice." She tells him that even though he can't control the magic yet, he still needs to try, cause he's their master, after all. Rain gets all hyped up, decides to go for it, thinking he can't let down the ultimate species who chose him. He asks Tanya to be his teacher, and she's totally in. They start practicing, but Tanya's a super strict teacher, and Rain is totally wiped. And then, more slimes just keep popping up. Later, back at the guild, the girls are just chilling outside, waiting for Rain. A kid walks up, asks what they hunted today, and they're like, "Oh, just a ton of slime." They keep chatting until Rain finally comes out. He tells them they got paid bank, so they all head to the market for supplies and a feast. Rain watches the girls as they browse. He figures people actually buy it when they tell them Tanya's just a weird girl in a dragonoid costume. They hit up a restaurant, and Tanya and Kanad absolutely demolish a mountain of food, way too fast. Rain just stares, totally amazed. They thank him for the food, and he thanks them for crushing it today. He also thanks Tanya for being his teacher earlier. She asks him where he even learned to tame beasts, and Kanade chimes in, saying she's super curious too. Rain starts telling them about his village, and the story flashes back to when he was just a tiny kid. He says his parents were also beast tamers, so he was always learning new stuff. He even learned how to tame insects from someone in the village. It was a tiny village, so small it didn't even have a name. He sadly says that village. It's just not there anymore. Kanad apologizes for bringing up a sad memory, but he tells her it's cool. The girls both tell him they ask because they just wanted to know more about him. He adds that if it's too painful, he totally doesn't have to talk about it. He tells them he wants them to know, so he starts spilling the beans about his childhood. Okay, so when Rain was 12, his parents were super busy that day, so they couldn't watch him practice. He went to the edge of the village and practiced till way late at night. When it got dark, he looked back and saw the sky was glowing red over the village, but by the time he got there, the whole place was already burned to the ground, with everyone still inside. Monsters had attacked his village. Some adventurers rescued him and took him in. They dropped him off at an inn run by a friend, and he had to work there just to survive. He really struggled to get by. That was his life until about 6 months ago, when he ran into the hero party. Arios was looking for another teammate and asked him to join up. He happily joined, thinking he could actually make a difference. But nope, reality hit hard. All they did was use him for all the crappy, boring jobs. Rain finishes his story, then apologizes for dumping all that heavy stuff on them. Kanade grabs his hands, saying she always wondered where he got all that courage to fight ever since they met. But now she gets it. He just doesn't want anyone else to suffer like he did, so he tries to help literally everyone, and that makes him feel good. Tanya also holds his hands, telling him he's way too nice for his own good, and super earnest. She calmly adds, "And that's not a bad thing, by the way." Tanya isn't one for getting emotional, so she closes her eyes and quickly adds that she's proud to have him as her master. Rain remembers everything he went through with the hero party, and as he looks at the girls, his eyes totally well up with tears. The girls suddenly burst out, totally furious with the hero party on his behalf, startling him. They keep ranting, but Rain tries to get them to chill. The girls start squabbling and teasing each other, while Rain just watches them happily, wishing things could stay exactly like this forever. The next morning, their next job is hunting orcs. Now, these guys are E-ranked monsters. Not super strong, but kinda sneaky, and they totally use weapons. Kanad, being Kanad, immediately challenges Tanya, who can take down more of these guys. Tanya's like, "You're on." They both go for it, but Tanya just unleashes a fiery blast, wiping out a whole bunch of them in one go. hero. They keep fighting, just absolutely crushing these monsters without breaking a sweat. Tanya and Kanade are still going at it, challenging each other, but Rain, ever the voice of reason, tells them to chill out and not get too ahead of themselves. He tries to give them more advice, but Tanya just cuts him off, totally hyping herself up and getting super cocky. The girls basically ditch him to keep their competition going. Rain's just standing there, probably face-palming, hoping things don't go totally sideways. The girls are still just plowing through more orcs, and Tanya's all like, seriously, this is way too easy. But then, she spots one of them still twitching, so she goes to check it out. She tries to blast it again, but bam, it totally grabs her leg, sending her sprawling. The orc is about to go in for the kill, but she manages to blast it with a fireball at the last second. Suddenly, another one pops up right behind her, ready to strike, but Rain, being the hero he is, dives in front, taking the hit on his arm instead. Kanade, of course, finishes it off. Tanya sees his wound and gets super worried, but Rain just whips out a healing spell, fixes himself right up, and shows her, telling her, don't even sweat it. But Tanya still feels terrible because he totally warned her, and she just didn't listen, or wasn't careful enough. Kanad tells him to take a breather while she zooms off to grab all the monster stones. After turning in the monster stones at the guild, Rain comes out and asks Kanad where Tanya bounced to. Kanad tells him she just took off, feeling super bummed. Meanwhile, Tanya's chilling on a bridge, totally replaying everything in her head. That cute little girl from before pops up and asks what they beat today. Tanya, all sad, just mumbles that she beat nothing. The little girl, noticing Tanya's gloomy mood, asks if anything hurts. She says her mom always told her to speak up if she's feeling pain. Tanya tells her, your mom's super wise. She thanks the girl for being so sweet, and the little one waves goodbye and dashes off. Tanya then remembers how Rain was totally worried about her earlier and warned her, but she just brushed him off. She feels absolutely awful. Rain totally interrupts her deep thoughts, asking what's up. She stutters a bit, then apologizes for what went down, but Rain just gives her a gentle pat on the head and tells her to seriously stop stressing. She's shocked he's not mad, and he just tells her he's super glad she's safe. He also tells her Kanad's been freaking out about her too. Right on cue, Kanade comes sprinting in and gives her a teary hug. Later that night, Rain asks the innkeeper if there's an extra room available, but she shuts him down. The innkeeper and Rain keep bickering back and forth, while Tanya just stares at him, totally blown away that he didn't chew her out earlier. That night, Rain's stuck sleeping on the floor, and Tanya just can't stop watching him. She's thinking the floor has to be super uncomfortable, but he let them have the comfy beds. Thoughts about Rain just keep swirling in her head. She starts realizing she might have feelings for him, but she totally denies it, telling herself she's just being nice to him. She snuggles into his covers, looks at him, and gives a happy little smile. The next morning, as the trio's just chilling and walking along a path, Kanad's happily singing, telling Rain it's their successful job song. Tanya agrees they've been totally nailing their tasks, and says it's time to get Rain some awesome weapons. Rain's like, yeah, we can grab some once we're back. They're just happily chattering away, but then bam, Rain suddenly stops dead in his tracks. Why? He just spotted the hero party. Rain lets out a huge sigh, and tells the girls they're taking a detour, turning to leave, but Arios stops him, being all like, don't be so cold, man. Arios casually says they're sorry, adding that even though Rain was useless, they should have used nicer words when they kicked him out. Seriously? This of course makes Rain absolutely livid. Tanya and Kanade step in, and Arios is about to give Tanya a piece of his mind when he suddenly notices. Whoa, these girls are the ultimate species. He's totally floored and asks what the heck they're doing here. Kanad's like, we're Rain's comrades. And Arios, being Arios, immediately jumps to conclusions. Rain must be their servant. Kanad, totally ticked off, yells at him, saying Rain is their master. The hero party's jaws just drop. They cannot even believe it. Rain asks what they want already. Arios explains they tried to tackle the Lost Woods, but the path kept messing with them, always leading them back to square one. He adds that they couldn't carry much gear and had to bail after a whole week of trying. So Arios, with all his nerve, offers Rain his old job back, taming beasts to explore and carry their stuff. Seriously? Rain, absolutely fuming, asks him if he actually thinks he'd agree to that BS. Arios says Rain should be honored, and the rest of his crew totally backs him up. Agath chimes in, saying Rain might be useless in a fight, but he's got a few uses. Mina agrees, and Lean actually tells Rain he's lucky they're even considering a pathetic loser like him. Rain just flat out tells them he's not interested. The trio turns to bounce, but Mina cuts them off. She tells Rain they need the Shield of Truth from the Lost Woods. Mina explains that without that shield, they can't beat the Demon King, and monsters will totally overrun the world. Rain remembers his village, and totally doesn't want that kind of chaos to happen again. He remembers what a holes the hero party were to him, but he still, somehow, agrees to help. Arios, being a total jerk, smugly says Rain should have just agreed from the start. Then they all start insulting him again, and tell him to just follow them. Kanad, with a face so calm, it's scary, stops them. She says she won't stop Rain from working with them, but she looks at them with an icy glare and says they have to apologize first. Arios just laughs like, dude, I already said sorry. Kanad's like, no, that wasn't an apology, pal. Tanya chimes in, telling them they totally destroy up, and now they want a favor? Nah, they gotta grovel. The hero party's jaws hit the floor. Tanya adds that she would have just fried them with fire, but Rain wouldn't be cool with that, so they just need to put their heads on the ground and beg. Like, for real. Arios is absolutely furious, yelling that a hero would never grovel to some nobody like Rain. The rest of the crew backs him up, refusing to grovel. Arios then grabs Rain by his shirt and starts spewing super messed up stuff about the girls, which just makes Rain absolutely explode with rage. Before Arios can even finish his trash talk, Rain bam punches the smug right off his face. His whole team just stares, mouths gaping open. Arios is absolutely livid, totally shocked Rain actually punched him. Rain tells him he'd totally do it again, no regrets. He says Kanade and Tanya are super precious to him, and if Arios ever disrespects them again, he'll pay. Arios, being an idiot, challenges them to a fight. Rain's like, fine, you're on. So, it's set. Agath versus Kanade. Lean and Mina against Tanya, and Arios gets to face Rain. Agath tells Kanade he's been dreaming of fighting an ultimate species. Kanade, all fired up, basically tells him she's gonna beat him black and blue. Kanade charges in, unleashing super fast blows, while he's barely blocking them with his sword. He's totally shocked by her speed, and how each hit packs a serious punch. She's practically making him look like a total joke, which just infuriates him, so he unleashes his super secret move Hellfire and Brimstone Slashes. But Kanade just casually deflects it, leaving him absolutely speechless. Kanade just looks at him, totally disappointed, and says she thought all that power he was bragging about was, like, actually serious. Agath, still trying to sound tough, boasts he'll now use all his power. Kanade just casually replies, oh, I guess I'll use half of mine then. He's absolutely stunned and gets terrified, realizing she hasn't even been using half her strength this whole time. Agath basically gives up, knowing he can't win. But then he starts mouthing off about Rain, so Kanade, bam, knocks him out in one single blow. She looks down at him, and, typical Kanade, decides she probably overdid it a little. Alright, over to Tanya's fight. She's totally messing with Arios' crew, getting them super riled up. The duo casts their spell, but to their absolute shock, Tanya just dispels it with a flick of her finger and starts straight up laughing at them. Lean tells Mina they gotta team up and starts puffing herself up. They attack again, and yep, same exact thing happens. They're like, what the heck did you do? And Tanya explains she used Material Canceller, which basically analyzes a spell and then cancels it out with the perfect magic wave. So, in plain English, their spells are totally useless against her. Lean gets all mad and calls her a lizard. Seriously? Mina tells her that the hero party's attacks are nothing. Ouch. The duo keeps chucking more spells, but it's the same old story. Eventually, they're totally wiped, but somehow still manage to boast. Tanya's like, just wait, Rain's gonna tame thousands of beasts one day. They try one last all-out attack, but she just flicks her finger, and poof, gone. The duo just collapses from pure exhaustion. Tanya, looking seriously pissed, tells them they won't get away with hurting her master, and that now they're gonna see some real magic. Tanya unleashes a crazy powerful spell, telling them their souls are about to be crushed, and wishes them a good death. Whoa! As she starts chanting, ultimate end, the girls absolutely scream and start begging for their lives. But then Tanya goes, boom, like a bomb, and tells them she was totally kidding. The heroines are already white as a sheet from fear and just pass out cold. So, in Rain's fight, Arios is totally flexing, bragging about being the hero. Rain does not even let him finish, and just wham, hits him right in the face. Arios is like, hey, I was talking, but Rain just tells him he is not interested. Oof. Arios draws his sword and starts slashing away at Rain. Rain notices Arios is moving super fast and thinks his sword skills are actually pretty impressive. Arios keeps on flexing while non-stop slashing Rain, but Rain does not feel that same desperation he felt when he was fighting Tanya. Interesting. Rain just catches Arios by his wrist and asks him, is that all you have, dude? Arios is totally shocked. Rain lands a critical punch, and Arios falls back, completely wondering how Rain has that kind of power. Rain does not stop there and goes for another hit, but Arios dodges it. Arios starts attacking Rain again, demanding, how? Rain explains he got his power from Kanade and tells Arios he cannot hit him because Rain is a beast tamer, and his whole job is to study his targets. He explains that he has been studying Arios' fights since the very first time they met, so now Rain knows all his moves even before Arios makes them. Talk about foresight. Suddenly, Arios sends out a crazy ball of lightning that explodes right in front of Rain. Arios is like, boom, I have the hero's special magic. He attacks with his lightning again, but Rain just counters it with his own awesome fireball. Arios taunts Rain, saying the only magic Rain has is healing and fireballs. Arios keeps attacking Rain with all sorts of different magic spells, but Rain just keeps dodging them all. Rain thinks it might be hard to fight Arios with magic, but he decides to fight with the one thing he is super good at. Arios charges for Rain again, but then he suddenly stops midway because he cannot move anymore and just falls to his knee. What? Rain then introduces him to Arby, and get this, Arios is totally shocked, wondering, wait, why would he tame a bee? It turns out that during their sword fight, Rain quietly sent out his thoughts and made contact with the bees. Rain tells Arios he lost, and adds that he is still super angry about how Arios mocked Kanade and Tanya. Uh-oh, Arios starts to beg Rain, even trying to tell stories about how they traveled together, but Rain just gives him one final epic blow, and Arios passes out. Game over, man. Rain totally smiles, pleased with his revenge, and then the girls call his attention, waving super happily as they race towards him. They all embrace each other, laughing their heads off. So wholesome. Up next, our dynamic trio is spotted in the notorious Lost Woods. woods. Tanya points out that it is even dark during the day. She is like, you know what? We should just burn this whole forest down. Rain tells her that it is full of life, so they cannot do that. Rain tells them that the legendary shield of truth, which only the hero can wield, is hidden somewhere inside. He looks at the map the hero party made and says it is totally worthless now because the woods would have definitely changed paths. Rain says they need to find the shield because, well, they are under contract. Flashback to what happened right after the fight. The hero party hangs their heads in shame and apologizes, but Tanya is absolutely not having it. She keeps making them apologize over and over again. Kanade asks Rain if they should totally forgive them, and he agrees. Arios is seething with anger, but agrees they can put the event behind them, barely. Arios tells them that the shield of truth is, surprise surprise, in the possession of monsters in the deepest part of the woods. Then he gets a bit cocky, saying they must acquire it for him, the hero, but Kanad and Tanya angrily snap at him. Rain just pats their heads, chilling them out. Back inside the lost woods, Rain is deep in thought, trying to figure out how to brace for the epic challenge ahead. The two girls are absolutely not having it, and tell him they should not have taken this mission. Nope, Tanya, with an epic hair flip, totally boasts that she could defeat the Demon King all by herself. Kanad worriedly asks Rain if he is okay with helping the hero party. Rain just pats their heads. Aw. Tanya asks him why he just started patting their heads all of a sudden. He apologizes, but Kanad is totally cool with it. He tells them he was just super happy they were angry on his behalf. Rain says they need to help Arios since he is the only one who can actually defeat the Demon King. Tanya tells him he is way too kind for his own good, so they have to look after him. Adorable. He thanks both of them. Tanya says they need to come up with a solid strategy. Pronto. Rain calls a bird and tells the girls he will assimilate with it and check out the forest from the top, like a drone. Rain flies away and starts mapping out their path. And get this, the other birds totally help him too. He comes back into his body and tells them he found the way. Score! Kanad is absolutely thrilled and tells them they should start going, but the duo pulls her back, reminding her that she does not actually know the way. Classic Kanad. They set off, but keep walking non-stop. The girls get tired and ask him, how much longer, seriously? Just then, they notice the exact same stone they set on a rock when they started the journey. They are all totally frustrated. Ugh. Kanade asks him if they picked the wrong path, but Rain tells her that is not possible because the other birds also checked and got the same path. Tanya tells them there might be something more, so she casts a spell, Material Search, and little light bubbles rise from her rune, starting to lead them somewhere mysterious. The lights lead them to a giant, ancient tree right in the heart of the forest. Tanya tells them the tree is emitting illusionary magic. She tries to explain the process, but the other two are totally lost, especially Kanade, so Tanya breaks it down. A spell was cast on us that made us walk around in circles, period. She tells Kanad to just break down the tree, but the two start to totally bicker. Classic them. Rain tells them to chill out. Tanya says the tree is causing the problem, so breaking it down totally solves that problem. Duh. Rain asks her to just use magic and take down the barrier without touching the tree. She tells him it is way too powerful and might take a super long time. Kanad says they cannot be late, or Arios will totally make fun of Rain, so she decides to just smash that tree. Rain tries to stop her, but she has already lunged for it. Too late. Suddenly, they hear a mysterious voice from the tree, telling them to leave. Kanad freezes. The voice keeps telling them to just leave. Kanad totally runs and hides behind Rain. Aw. Just then, a super young girl emerges from the tree itself. The trio just stares at her in total astonishment, realizing she is a fairy, one of the ultimate species, a spell-casting specialist with magic power way greater than even dragonoids. Humans have not seen fairies in like 200 years. As protectors of mountains and forests, fairies view humans as their mortal enemies because humans totally destroyed forests in the past. They soon entered into conflict, and the fairies retreated deep into the hinterlands where humans cannot reach them. Because of that, fairies really hate humans. Rain tries to talk to the fairy, but she just tells him to leave. So cold! He keeps trying, but she just says the same thing over and over. Leave this place. She threatens them with magic, saying they would be forcefully removed. Yikes! The trio runs away, bolting back into the woods. They wonder why she is so cold to them, especially since fairies are known to be super warm and welcoming. What is up with that? Rain says it is really unusual that she showed herself, even with a human right there. Rain suggests she is protecting something, keeping guard over the barrier, and Tanya says that might be true since she showed up immediately when Kanad tried to break the tree. Kanade thinks maybe she is protecting the monster that has the shield of truth. Plot twist, but Rain does not think so. Tanya tells them there is no time, and they should just break down the barrier and keep going. She suggests Kanade break the tree while she distracts the fairy, but Rain says he would rather just talk to her again, leaving the girls completely shocked. Rain, what are you doing? They try to talk him out of it, but he says he would rather not use force. Classic Rain, always the pacifist. They give up and tell him he is just way too kind. Aw. Later on, they go back in, and the girl tells him the same thing again. Rain says he is not the enemy and wants absolutely no trouble. She raises her hand to cast a spell, but Rain tells her to just attack him if that will help her trust him. He tells her not to hurt the other two though. She agrees and starts to cast a spell. Here we go. Rain stops the duo from helping him. Hold up! Rain remembers how he tamed a wild animal that tried to attack him and says he will not give up. No way! She shoots magic arrows at him, cutting him, but he does not even flinch. Whoa! whoa. She asks him why, and he just says he wants to talk. That's it. The fairy cannot believe he stood there under her attack just to get her trust. She wonders if he is even human, like the ones that trampled on their lands a super long time ago. He tells her that not all humans are like that. There is hope. She still goes ahead to shoot him more arrows, but Tanya and Kanade totally jump in and stand right in front of the arrows, so she stops. Talk about friendship goals. They tell Rain he was not getting through to her, so they totally had to step in. Kanad and Tanya try to convince her that he is not a bad person. Tanya even tells her that Rain is totally against destroying the forest. Then the duo starts to bicker again about who actually wants to destroy the forest. Oh, these two! The fairy is super surprised to see them protecting a human. What a twist! She extends her hand to Rain and asks for his name. Big moment! He introduces himself and she tells him her name is Sora. Rain grabs her hand as she says she will totally hear them out. After all that, they finally wrap up their epic tale about the Shield of Truth. Sora's like, yeah, I put up that barrier and nope, it ain't coming down. She spills the beans that the barrier is actually hiding the path to the fairy's village, and she can't just put them all in danger, right? But Tanya's like, hold up, sounds like you might be protecting some kind of monster in there. Sora claps back. Nah, the monster stuff is total fake news. It's us, the fairies, protecting the Shield of Truth. Then she's all, fine, I'll hand over the shield. Boom, she zaps away. Then bam, she's back with the shield in hand, giving it straight to Rain. Rain's like, whoa, are you sure about this? Like, for real? Real? Sora's reply, I totally despise humans, but monsters? I hate them even more. The whole crew is hyped, super stoked they actually got the shield. Rain asks if there's anything he can do to repay her, but Sora just shrugs him off. She explains that the fairies made a deal with the last hero to protect them, and now they're passing the torch to the next one. Tanya's like, don't even worry, Rain. Sora seems totally cool with us taking the shield. So, they decide it's time to head back to the city. Rain thanks her, and she's just like, yeah, just go already. As they're walking away, Sora almost calls out, but then she stops herself. But Rain, being the super perceptive guy he is, senses something's off and heads back to her. He asks her, straight up, what's bugging you? Seriously, I'll listen. She starts to stutter, almost spills the beans, but then catches herself. She's thinking back to how he totally stood his ground earlier, and she just knows he'll try to help, but then end up getting himself hurt. Rain tells her, look, I know it's dangerous, but I'm totally ready to help you. Tanya chimes in, reassuring Sora. Rain's just way too nice. He can't help it. He's not gonna take no for an answer, trust me. And Kanade adds, plus, we're way stronger than we look. Alright, so Sora finally drops the bombshell. She has a twin sister named Runa. She explains that yeah, there are other ways to the fairy's village, but she and Runa were the ones holding down the fort in the Lost Woods. It was kinda boring, but Runa made it awesome, so she actually loved being there. But then, one day, they both stepped outside the barrier and ran smack dab into a monster, working for the Demon King. They tried to bolt, but the monster was too fast and snagged Runa. Rain's like, whoa, what kind of monster could even take down a fairy? And she tells him, it was the Shadow Knight. He's all, wait, a Shadow Knight? That's like a C-ranked monster. It shouldn't be able to beat an ultimate species. Oh right, it nullifies all magic, so only physical attacks work. But fairies are all about magic. Sora keeps going with her heartbreaking story. She says the monster wanted to wipe out any ultimate species that threatened the Demon Lord, so he told her to drop the barrier for Runa. She totally refused, went to her village leader for help, but he told her to just ditch Runa. He said they left the barrier, so they had to deal with the consequences. Sora gets that the leader didn't want to risk everyone for one fairy, but she just can't abandon her sister. No way! Rain, being the good guy, wipes her tears and promises they'll save Runa, keep the fairy's secret safe, and take down that Shadow Knight. Sora's eyes get all watery again, and she just grabs Rain in a super tight hug, crying her heart out. And then, in a super dramatic cut, we see the Shadow Knight and Runa chained up to a tree. Yikes. Okay, so later, Sora drops another bombshell. The Shadow Knight is demanding she take down the barrier before sundown, or Runa's a goner. She points them towards the Shadow Knight's lair. Sora wants to join the squad, but they're like, nope, stay put, because they're terrified the Shadow Knight will hurt Runa if he realizes Sora double-crossed him. They promise they'll bring Runa back, safe and sound. Once they hit the hideout, they whip up a plan and unleash a joint attack on the Shadow Knight. Rain zaps him with a fireball to distract him, then bam, Kanad comes soaring down with a kick, and Rain follows up with another attack. The monster finally clues in that they're there for the fairy and tries to straight up kill Runa. But nope, Tanya swoops in, blocks the attack with her wings, snags Runa, and flies off with her. The Shadow Knight tries to blast Tanya out of the sky, but Kanade and Rain team up to attack him again. Oh boy, the Shadow Knight gets super pissed and transforms into a chaotic whirlwind, just trashing the whole forest. Rain has a light bulb moment. This is why the Shadow Knight wanted to take on the village solo. Rain tells Kanad, we gotta stop him, like now. The forest won't make it through this. Rain decides he'll pin the monster down while Kanad lands a hit, but she's not sure her attack will even do anything. Rain assures her, don't sweat it, I got the rest. And then he calls upon some air bees, making a quick contract with them. He sends the bees buzzing straight for the Shadow Knight, saying their stings might not do much, but it'll totally keep him busy. And while the Shadow Knight is distracted, Rain zaps Kanad with a power-up spell, and bam, she punches a literal hole right through him, instantly defeating him. Kanade is totally hyped, asking Rain what he just did to her. He explains that thanks to Tanya's power, he could cast that spell and temporarily temporarily boost her abilities. Tanya cuts in, letting them know Runa's just sleeping it off and is totally fine. She asks Rain, "Dude, how'd you even learn that boost spell? I thought it was gone forever." Rain casually replies that he learned it back in his hometown. Kanade interrupts them again, chattering excitedly about striking a super cool victory pose. They keep chatting, and then Runa finally wakes up. She asks who they are, and Rain tells her, "Sora sent us." Okay, so back at the barrier, Runa and Sora have this super sweet happy embrace. Sora thanks them profusely for saving her sister, but Rain's like, "Nah, no biggie." Sora muses, "Man, what if Rain hadn't shown up?" Then Runa, being Runa, totally cuts in with some super naughty scenario, teasing Rain that his male instincts must be going wild. Sora, super mad, scolds her, and they end up running around, bickering like crazy siblings. Rain watches them, thinking how they look identical, but their personalities are total opposites. Kanade's all, "You guys can live together now," but they're like, "Actually, we gotta bounce." Sora explains she can't stay with people who would have abandoned her sister. Rain warns them to be super careful out there. Runa, though, is worried, saying she doesn't want to get captured again, and they seriously have no idea where to even go. Kanade, being the cool one, jumps in and asks the sisters to join their party. Tanya agrees too, and Rain, ever the gentleman, asks the girls if they're cool with joining a party with a human. Sora tells him, "You actually taught me that some humans are good. I don't trust other humans, but I totally trust you." Runa adds, "As long as my sister's cool with it, I'm down." Rain is super stoked and happily tells them he'd love to have them join the crew. The sisters then tell Rain, "All right, form a contract with us." Rain's a little hesitant because he's tamed beasts, and even Kanade and Tanya, but fairies? That's a whole new level, like solving a super tricky puzzle. Tanya playfully teases him, and Kanade hypes him up, saying he can totally do it, so he decides to go for it. He does the classic blood and palm ritual, and even though he's still a bit doubtful, wondering what kind of magic structure he needs to conjure, suddenly, the perfect magic just clicks in his mind. Rain casts the spell and asks the girls to say their names. Luckily, they do, and bam, the link is forged. They all check their hands to see the cool new pattern. Tanya and Kanade start cheering like crazy, but Rain suddenly feels super lightheaded as the spell totally drains him. He almost face plants, but Sora and Runa catch him, telling him to just lean on them. Tanya and Kanade just stare in total horror. Lol. The two sisters happily thank him and call him Master. So, after ditching the woods, Rain heads over to the hero party with the shield, while the girls sneak behind a plant, totally watching the whole thing go down. They whisper and decide, okay, if anything wild goes down with Rain, we are jumping in, no questions asked. Rain just hands it over, and seriously, their jaws practically hit the floor, like total shock. Arios is all, "Dude, it has only been 2 days since you bounced," and Rain just casually drops, "Yeah, we snagged it in 2 days." Arios is straight up flabbergasted, yelling, "No way, that is impossible. It has gotta be a fake." But then Mina whips out a spell for appraisal, and boom, confirms it is the real deal. Arios is still scratching his head, like, how did they even do that so fast? Then he glances over and spots the two new girls. Rain, being the protective type, steps in front of them and straight up tells him, "That is none of your business, pal." Rain totally had them tuck their wings away, because you know it could cause a huge freakout if word got out about that. Arios grudgingly hands over the cash for the job. Rain counts it, turns to split, hoping to never ever see them again. But then Agath jumps in and asks, "Hey, can you come back to the party?" Arios is absolutely fuming, screaming at Agath to cut it out. Agath, though, is like, "Look, it is super obvious we need Rain. He even got the relic we were totally stuck on." Lean and Mina chime in, agreeing, and Arios just kind of realizes he has zero say in this whole thing. Agath then tells Rain he promises they will pay him right and treat him way better. But Agath just smiles, totally downplaying everything that went down, and honestly, that just makes Rain even angrier. Rain is like, "Yep, they have not changed one bit." The girls pop out from hiding, and Kanade is quick to tell Rain, "You should totally just bounce." Agath tries one last thing, saying, "Dude, defeating the Demon King will get you mega fame and power." But Rain just shrugs, "Nah, I do not need any of that." Rain kind of zones out, thinking about his life, then looks at the girls and realizes he has already got everything he could ever want. He just grabs their hands, and they walk away. And seriously, the hero party, they did not change one bit, still calling him names, even after he was gone. They leave Arios all alone in the room, and he is just replaying that fight with Rain in his head. He mutters that the pain and humiliation are still super real, and he furiously vows to totally erase Rain. So, later that day, chilling under a tree, the girls ask Rain, "Hey, can anyone besides the hero actually beat the Demon King?" Rain breaks it down for them. Okay, so the old legend says the Demon King used his powers to completely control everyone, and seriously, no one could fight back. So, the very first hero made a super intense contract with the lords, and basically got their blood pumped into him. And with that lord, power coursing through his veins, the hero totally clobbered the Demon King. Then he freed everyone and brought back peace. What a legend. Tanya and Kanade are like, wow, the first hero sounds like a genuinely good dude, unlike the total jerk we just saw. Rain explains that no matter how ridiculously strong other people get, they just cannot take down the Demon King without that blood. But the hero? Totally different. That blood removes any and all limits to how much stronger he can get. He says the power you need to absolutely smash the Demon King is called Limit Break, and only the hero has it. Kanade points out, but Arios is, like, super weak right now. Rain tells her, yeah, but eventually he will grow stronger. with no limits. Then Sora drops a bombshell. Wait a minute, everything you just said sounds exactly like you. She is like, you made contracts with 4 ultimate species and got their power, and you have gotten way stronger with every single contract. Runa chimes in, yeah, you are not just a normal human anymore. And Sora totally connects the dots. This sounds exactly like that limit break thing you were just talking about. Kanade gets an idea. So, Rain, what if you make even more contracts with ultimate species? Then maybe you could totally take down the Demon King. They all instantly agree. Yeah, he would make a way better hero than Arios ever could. Rain just stares at them, feeling a little, well, overwhelmed. Kanade asks him, so, you do not want to fight the Demon King, then? Rain flashes back to his time with the hero party, when beating the Demon King was his whole life goal. But when he got booted, that goal just vanished. Now, he was just having a blast with these awesome girls. He shakes it off and tells them, look, I would totally do it if I could, he explains. Taking down the Demon King is not just like our usual gigs. So many lives are on the line, so it is not something to take lightly. He then apologizes, saying he is just not mentally ready to make that kind of massive decision right now. Kanade quickly apologizes back, telling him they totally should have thought about how he felt. Rain, with a determined look, tells them he will start thinking about it now. They all light up, cheering him on, telling him they will totally wait for his decision. No pressure. Kanade reassures him that no matter what he decides, they will always be by his side. He just smiles and happily thanks them. So, yeah, it is totally time for Rain and the hero to pick their own paths. The next morning, Rain wakes up, sees the girls all peacefully sleeping, and secretly hopes for an extra room soon because things are getting super cozy in there. At breakfast, Tanya is all, do not forget, you need to get yourself a weapon, Rain, as they chat. Runa suddenly cuts in, raving about how amazing the soup is, and Sora immediately tells her to knock it off. Rain is like, relax, I have got enough cash from our last mission, so yeah, we can totally go weapon shopping. Breakfast done, they head out. As they are walking, Sora and Runa grab Rain's hands super tight, looking around all freaked out. Rain, all cheerful, tells them, do not worry, you guys will be totally fine. They keep chatting, but then the girls scream as 2 really rough-looking dudes suddenly yell Tanya's name. Turns out, Tanya totally clobbered both of them back when she was the guard dog of Stride Bridge. Now these guys are here to swear loyalty to her. She just tells them she will totally fight them again once they beef up a bit. Sora and Runa watch, kind of amazed, as Tanya and Kanade just effortlessly make friends with humans. Then the usual gaggle of kids who always follow Rain show up, super hyped about the new faces, and immediately call them his new wives. Sora gets super embarrassed, and Runa, of course, just teases her even more. One of the little girls calls them pretty, which makes Sora blush like crazy, while Runa just bursts out laughing and tries to show off her powers. Sora and Rain, super fast, shut her down. As they keep walking, the sisters bicker, and Sora reminds her that if they use magic, they will totally expose their wings. Rain tells them he hopes they get used to town life soon. They finally hit up the weapons store and head inside. The 2 sisters are totally shocked to see a dwarf Gantz chilling inside. Rain tells Gantz he needs a weapon, and Gantz just grunts. Look around and pick something. Kanade whispers to Tanya that the shop owner is a bit much, and Tanya, super loudly, says dwarfs are known for being cranky. He totally hears them and turns around with a super stern glare, scaring Kanade half to death. While Rain is checking out weapons, Runa rushes back in with a whip, begging him to pick it. She immediately starts spinning another totally lewd story about Rain being a tamer, and Sora is just absolutely fuming with embarrassment as Runa keeps spouting out dirty words. Rain eventually picks up a dagger, but the second he opens it, he feels like something is just off with the blade. Just then, some dude walks in, tells Gantz to hand over the best weapon money can buy, and casually tosses him a bag of coins. Gantz hands the guy a fancy-looking blade, and the dude flexes it a couple times before bouncing. Rain asks the dwarf, hey, was that weapon you just sold really the best you have got? He adds, I mean, that sword looked nice and all, but it probably would not hold up in a real fight. Rain then says, actually, everything else in this shop that is on display is not very good either. Gantz just bursts out laughing, telling Rain, dude, you have got a seriously good eye. He explains that all these weapons, just stuff he whipped up when he was bored. The twins immediately call him a total ripoff, which naturally makes him super mad. He defends himself, saying he does not charge more than they are worth, and then he reveals some of the really good stuff he made. Rain is like, so why do you even make these fake weapons when you can craft something this incredibly awesome? Gantz sighs, explaining that people just walk in, all they want is a weapon to show off, and then after buying them, they just toss them aside the second they find something new. He says that totally made him lose his faith in crafting amazing weapons. He explains that these weapons are like his kids, and he just wants them to go to someone truly worthy. Tanya, all happy, tells the dwarf, dude, I totally get you, and seriously, they instantly hit it off. Rain and Kanade both nod, agreeing that these two definitely have a ton of pride in their work. The dwarf then asks Rain, how in the world did you know these weapons were different? Rain explains that his whole beast tamer gig means he has to observe things super closely, so he just picked up the habit of observing everything around him. Kanade and Tanya, being totally awesome, as usual, praise Rain for his amazing abilities. Gantz says he totally likes Rain and would have absolutely loved to craft him a personalized weapon. They all start to cheer and celebrate before he is even finished, but he cuts them off, saying he just does not have the materials right now to make a truly special weapon. Later that day, they all roll up to the guild and notice it is a little more popping than usual. Kanad asks Natalie why it is so busy. She tells them that Arios is recruiting new members. Natalie keeps talking, but Rain's mind totally spaced out for a sec. Kanad and Tanya totally notice his mood shift and ask if he is alright. He pats them on the head and says he is fine now. The girls are super pleased, their cheeks turning all red. Sora and Runa are totally eyeing the whole exchange. Natalie then asks Rain about the twins, and they introduce themselves. Natalie then asks about their relationship, and Runa, being Runa, immediately tries to turn it into something super spicy. Natalie totally gets the wrong idea, and Rain gets super embarrassed trying to explain things. Runa just straight up giggled to herself, super satisfied. Rain hands Natalie a document and tells her he wants to take the job. It was a job from Gantz to find mithril ore. We gotta rewind a bit to when they were at Gantz's store. He tells them he needs mithril ore to make some epic special weapons. Tanya explains that weapons made from this ore last a lifetime, but the ore itself is super rare. Gantz mentions his ancestors left him a mithril mine, and the girls immediately realize this dude is loaded. He tells them he has not found any ore in his mine lately. Rain points out it is impossible to exhaust a whole mine all at once, so someone might be behind this. Gantz apologizes for not being able to make him a weapon, but Rain has other ideas, and the girls totally catch on, telling him to spill it because they will help with whatever plan he has got. Rain thanks them. He tells Gantz to let them investigate, but Gantz is super worried they might get messed up. Rain tells him not to sweat it. Gantz agrees and asks how much gold he will receive for their service. Rain says, forget the gold, just make him a weapon in exchange. Gantz is beyond thrilled that someone wants his awesome weapons more than his cash. Later, chilling outside the guild, the team chats about Gantz and agrees he is not a total grumpy old dude after all. He just super cares about his weapons. They are all pumped and hyped for the mission to be a total success. They kick off their journey to the mine, super pumped and full of energy. Kanade, Tanya, and Rain are totally enjoying the walk, but they glance back to see the twins completely exhausted. And just like that, they both conk out. Rain decides they have got to stop and let the girls rest up. Sora apologizes for slowing them down, explaining that fairies, even with all their powerful magic, just lack stamina. Rain realizes they are super close to a lake and takes them there. The girls immediately beg and plead with Rain to let them swim, and he agrees. Kanade, being Kanade, suddenly starts stripping off her clothes, totally shocking everyone. Rain, being the gentleman, leaves them and heads into the woods to give them some space. He then makes a quick contract with two squirrels to warn him if the girls get into any trouble, and he lays down to rest. Suddenly, something grabs Kanad, and she lets out this super loud scream, waking Rain right up. He notices zero reaction from the squirrels, but he still dashes toward the girls, totally worried. He gets to the lake, totally ready to throw down, but then he sees it. A teensy tiny fish is just grabbing her tail. Everyone stares at him, totally shocked. Rain quickly turns away, beet red with embarrassment, and the girls all scream at once. Later on, as they finally sit down, Rain just keeps apologizing, feeling super ashamed about what happened earlier. Sora is also totally fuming about Rain seeing her body. He hangs his head and apologizes to them, saying he will do anything. Tanya playfully flicks his head and tells him to just pretend nothing happened. They tell him it was not his bad since he came running because he thought they were in trouble. He thanks them, and Tanya suggests he should go swimming, but Sora quickly adds that they might totally sneak a peek at him, and Sora herself totally freaks out at the thought of it. Rain awkwardly declines, saying he will pass on that. They finally reach the mine and bunch up to hide right outside it. Rain points out that someone might be inside snagging the ore. He spots a feather falling, looks up, and sees a bird totally scoping them out. Bam! He realizes there is another beast tamer inside. Just then, two men walk out of the mine and hear them. Rain tells the girls not to go wild, as he wants to question them later. But guess what? The girls do the absolute opposite and just straight up knock the dudes out. Rain is like, what happened? Tanya, totally deadpan, says the man just accidentally ran into her fist. The twins offer to use magic to check their memories instead. Rain's mind is blown that they can even do that. They cast a memory search spell and see the thieves. They tell Rain there are 5 more guys inside the cave, and they are all adventurers. The twins ask if they have been any help. Rain says yes and thanks them, but they insist he pat their heads like he does for Kanade and Tanya. He totally pats their heads, making them super happy. As they get ready to enter the cave, Rain tells them to be extra careful because the enemy has been watching them from above, which means there is a beast tamer among the thieves. Inside the mine, the thieves start getting worried about the guys they sent out earlier. The beast tamer tells them the men totally got attacked and orders them to prepare to crush the intruders. As Rain and his team walk inside, bam, a fireball comes flying at them, but the fairies totally block the attack. The thieves try to attack again, but our crew uses magic to tie 2 of them up. 2 more try to shoot arrows, but Tanya attacks them super fast, and Kanad ties them up too. The last man standing asks Rain who they are, and Rain tells him Gantz sent them. The dude tries to attack Rain with a dagger, but Rain just takes him out with one epic punch. The man is not backing down though, and he summons this epic monster, a behemoth, a B-ranked monster. The team is totally blown away, wondering how he even tamed something this super powerful. The man explains he found and tamed the monster when it was young, so he did not need any special powers. He tells the monster to kill them, and it charges right toward them. The monster slams into the cave, and the whole place starts shaking like crazy. Kanade and and Tanya quickly take the twins and the remaining thieves outside, while Rain stays behind to deal with the beast. Outside the cave, Tanya offers to keep an eye on everyone, while Kanad goes to help Rain. Inside the cave, Rain is still going toe-to-toe with the beast, but then a huge cave stone falls right onto Rain's shoulder. The beast almost takes him out, but Kanade swoops in and saves him. Just in time, he thanks her and asks about the others. Kanade tells him Tanya has got them covered. Rain tells her he will keep fighting the monster while she captures the man. He explains the quickest way to stop this whole mess is to capture the guy and make him call off the monster. The man hollers angrily that they need to die because no one can know about them snagging the ore. Rain, having already studied the monster's moves, totally dodges its attacks like a boss. He blasts it with a fireball to chill it out a bit. Kanade, being awesome, has already snagged the guy. The thief tells Rain he would literally rather die than call off the attack. The monster keeps attacking Rain, and he remembers what Kanad told him that his abilities were way stronger than he ever imagined. The monster tries to take him out for good, but Rain does something wild. He tames the beast and snaps its contract with the thief. The man starts yelling at the monster, but it does not budge. He sees the mark on his hand is gone, so Rain explains exactly what he did. Kanad is totally floored. She has never heard of a beast tamer being able to straight up steal another tamer's control. The man totally loses it and starts yelling, then screams at it to go attack. This makes the beast super unstable. Rain tries to stop him, but the man keeps on shouting till the monster loses all control and tries to kill its former master. Rain jumps in super fast, blasts the monster with a fireball, taking it down for good. Rain tells the man that even with taming, you can never fully remove the bad vibes they have against humans. He says the monster was trying its best to stay calm, but the man's pure animosity just pushed it over the edge into a rampage. Rain later chats with the thieves outside and finds out that they had discovered Gantz had sold them some crappy weapons. So they decided to get back at him by stealing the ore, hoping he could not make any more weapons. So they spill the beans to Gantz, right? And he is like super bummed out because he realized he totally messed up, all because his ego was tied to his fancy weapons. He is like, man, I should have just made awesome weapons, no matter who used them. Then Rain, being the chill guy he is, tells Gantz to just make things right and pour his heart into his work. Gantz is totally moved that this young dude is comforting him. He promises to be honest with his customers and his creations from now on. Big character development moment, guys. Then he asks Rain what he is looking for. Rain is like, yo, I need a dagger and a gauntlet. He then whispers his super secret weapon ideas to Gantz, leaving the girls totally scratching their heads. Like, what is he cooking up? Gantz is hyped and tells him to chill. He will get it ready. Rain then tells the girls it is break time, and they are obviously stoked. Later that night, Arios is holding these super intense auditions for his crew. He tells this one dude, nah, you are out. The guy tries to beg, but Arios is like, dude, you can only tame one animal at a time, and you cannot even fight. The guy tries to argue, but I can tame other animals during battle to help. Arios just deadpans. Can you tame an ultimate species? The guy is like, no one can tame those. Arios, still cold, tells him he does not have the qualifications and kicks him out. Mina sighs, realizing that was the last applicant. She is seriously wondering what Arios is doing. She is thinking all these people were totally qualified, but Arios just keeps comparing everyone to Rain, which is totally unfair. Mina is getting super antsy. They are supposed to be taking down the Demon King. Not chilling here, she finally gets up the nerve to speak up, telling him his standards might be a bit too high. Arios gets all defensive and snaps. Are you saying my judgment is clouded? Yikes. Mina smartens up, realizing he is just dumping his anger on everyone, so she backs off, gives him a quick compliment, and he is like, yeah, we may need to stay here for a while. She is not happy about it. Mina agrees and leaves, but then, like a total boss, she turns back and subtly drops a reminder. Hello? World-saving mission? Arios then pulls out this mysterious ring and mutters to himself, before I save the world, there is one thing I have to do. Use this ring to eliminate Rain. Whoa, major plot twist. Next morning, Rain pops by the guild to ask Natalie about those ore thieves. She tells him they got their license revoked and are now doing hard labor. Bummer, dude. Rain is feeling pretty down about it, but the twins try to cheer him up. Sora is like, hey, letting a monster run loose could have caused way more trouble later. That is a good point, Sora. Rain perks up, thanks the girls, and they head out for a stroll. The girls are totally rocking it now, walking around and chatting with people on their own. Kanade and Tanya are still snoozing back at the inn, probably dreaming of food. They spot a hot dog stand, and Rain tries to explain what it is, but they do not understand. So, he just buys them some, and oh my god, they are obsessed. Total hot dog fans now. After chowing down, the girls ask him about powers he got from them, just like he did with Kanade and Tanya. Rain thinks about it and says he has not felt anything yet. The girls are bummed, but they insist he check for their ultimate magic. They explain that ultimate magic is super advanced, and only fairies can even touch it. Rain checks his mind, but nope, no new magic. The girls are super disappointed, thinking their contract gifted him nothing. Rain calms them down, pats their heads, and tells them he does not expect anything from them. The girls are like, but why do you trust us so much? Sora explains that their village totally ditched them, even though it was their own fault for leaving the barrier, but Rain never bails on anyone. Runa adds that he already has 2 other strong teammates, but he still treats them like they are just as useful. Rain then opens up, sharing that he had been thinking about why things did not work with the hero party. He realized it was partly because he could not trust himself. When they first started, started, he lacked confidence, so he tried super hard to be useful, but they still kicked him to the curb. He wonders if trusting them more might have changed things, but the girls immediately shut that down, saying the hero party were just bad people. Rain admits he cannot change the past, but now that he has his own crew, he wants to build real trust with them. He tells them he sees the twins as his comrades too, and the girls are absolutely thrilled. Runa and Sora immediately start arguing about food again, so Rain is like, okay, let us go grab the others and get some lunch. Rain is just happy to see his girls back to their usual selves. Suddenly, some creepy voice stops them dead in their tracks. He asks the girls for their names, and they tell him. Then he starts checking them out, all gross like, ugh. He then declares he likes them and they are going to be his. Rain and the girls are totally flabbergasted. The twins, being the sassy queens they are, immediately start sassing him back and throwing insults. But get this, the dude actually gets more pleased, saying their feistiness just makes him want them more. Super creepy vibes here, guys. Rain steps up, protecting the girls, and demands to know who this guy is. The dude introduces himself as Edgar Fromware, the son of the Lord of Horizon. No big deal. He tries to bribe the girls with luxury, but the twins angrily tell him to shove it. By now, a crowd has gathered. Edgar, being a total scumbag, sends his guards to forcefully grab the girls. He tells Rain to just hand them over, but Rain is like, absolutely not. Edgar, getting mad, orders his guards to attack. But plot twist, Rain totally kicks all their butts, shocking Edgar. Rain tells Edgar to just give up, but he laughs wickedly, all evil-like, saying he always gets what he wants. Then, his guards grab innocent bystanders and take them hostage. Total low blow, dude. Edgar tells Rain that the townspeople will pay the price for his defiance. What a jerk. Rain's brain is working overtime, trying to figure out how to save everyone, but the hostages are scattered everywhere. Sora offers to help with magic, but Rain is worried that if they reveal their secret, they will have to leave the city. Rain thinks super hard, and bam, a new magic just pops into his head. He casts a spell, and suddenly, a bunch of fireballs shoot out all at once, taking down all the guards. So cool. The twins are stunned, realizing he just pulled off a consecutive incantation, which is this super special fairy skill that lets you cast multiple spells at once. Rain points a sword at Edgar and tells him to get lost and never show his face again. Edgar leaves, but not without a threat, telling Rain that he will regret this. Uh-oh, foreshadowing. The twins, of course, thank Rain for saving them, and all the grateful townspeople do too. An old lady tells them that she is glad they are fine, but they have to leave Horizon and go far away. That is not ominous at all. And get this, looking down from above, we see Arios with a wicked smile and that creepy ring in his hand, watching Rain double. Uh-oh. Back at the inn, Runa is giving Kanade and Tanya the full rundown of what went down. Tanya, of course, cannot believe she slept through all the excitement. Classic Tanya! They all start chatting about the crazy magic Rain used. Rain says he now has better control of his magic, even more than when he last practiced with Tanya. Sora chimes in, saying that their magic control, which Rain got from their contract, actually helped him control the magic he got from Tanya. Whoa, synergy! Runa is super stoked that they are finally useful to Rain, and Kanad gives them props. Kanad is furious about Edgar and starts calling him all sorts of names. You go, Kanad! Rain tells them that the townspeople say Edgar has been kidnapping women and locking them up in his mansion. Seriously messed up. Tanya is like, how does he even get away with this evil stuff? Rain explains that Edgar's dad uses his power to shut up the victims. Kanad wonders why the knights do not arrest him, and Runa says that he was investigated, but they could not find any solid evidence. So frustrating. Tanya is absolutely enraged and is totally ready to just burn Edgar's mansion to the ground. Get it, girl. Rain calms her down, telling her they cannot just go in there, guns blazing. But Tanya is already too angry, pointing out that Edgar might come after the twins or other townspeople. Rain agrees they need to be super careful. Rain thinks about all the townspeople, wanting to save them all, but he is like, I am not a hero. He remembers that old lady's advice to just leave town. Kanad, being super perceptive, tells him she knows exactly what he is thinking, but he cannot help the town by just running away. He is surprised they read his mind, and Tanya flicks his head, telling him they know he wants to save everyone, but he thinks he needs to choose between his team and the townspeople. Sora and Runa also tell him that it is a lot to carry everyone's burdens, but that is just the kind of guy he is. All the girls agree. They want to save the city, not run away. Rain thanks them, declares he will stay and help the city, and everyone cheers for him. Later that night, Edgar and his dad just wrapped up their chat. As the Lord was heading out, he told Edgar to hit him up if he needed any help. Edgar, being Edgar, said he could totally handle it himself. He then turns to his guard, Gillet, and asks about what went down earlier. Gillet's like, yo, if anyone tries to file a complaint, I'll totally make sure they're dealt with. Edgar tells him to sniff out Rain and bring him in. He chucks some cash at Gillet and promises a fat bonus if he brings Rain back. Gillet's all, deal, and bails. Edgar remembers what Rain pulled on him, gets super mad, and vows he's gonna make him regret it big time. Then he rings a bell, and this super young girl shows up at the door. He yanks her by her hair and shoves her to the ground, totally fuming. He starts cussing her out and beating her up, all with this wicked, messed up smile plastered on his face. The poor girl weakly whispers for someone, anyone, to help her. The next day, Rain and Kanade head to the Order of Knights. Kanade's looking a little antsy about going in. They walk in and tell the receptionist they want to file a complaint against Edgar for assault. The receptionist looks kinda surprised, but then, a knight knight cuts them off, saying he heard it was just a minor scuffle, so no need to even look into it. Kanade starts to go off on him, but Rain quickly shuts her down. The knights just crack a joke about it and all start laughing. What a bunch of jerks. As Rain and Kanade walk back to the inn, Rain drops a bombshell. He thinks the knights might be in cahoots with Edgar, which is why those investigations always go nowhere. Kanade suddenly freezes. She feels someone lurking in a dark alley. A female knight steps out, and Kanade immediately calls her out, saying she was totally following them. The knight kinda gives up and says she was just following them because she needed to talk. She apologizes for not being straight up from the start. Rain's like, super surprised she bowed, and just tells her it's cool. She introduces herself as Stella in place, the vice captain of the Horizon branch of the Order of Knights. Boom! Rain and Kanade introduce themselves too. She thanks Rain, saying she heard he and Kanade totally clobbered the Ebonfangs. She admits that back then, and even now, she's ashamed she failed to protect people as a knight. She tells them straight up that she wants to make Edgar's family pay for all their messed up stuff, and she needs Rain's help. Stella spills the tea, explaining that most of the knights are totally corrupt and working with Edgar. She says they've completely forgotten their duties and now just cover up crimes for Edgar and his crooked family. She even drops that their leader, Gile, is totally in on it too. She was racking her brain trying to figure out how to fix the knights when Rain just happened to show up to make a report. She confesses she can't trust anyone, even with her high rank, and straight up asks him for help. Rain's thinking he wants to help, but also wondering if this could be a trap. Kanade totally breaks his train of thought and tells him they can trust Stella because she's not giving off any bad vibes whatsoever. Rain tells Stella, "Alright, we're in. We'll help." She's totally thrilled and thanks him big time. She asks him why he's going after the Lord of Horizon, and Rain's like, "Well, we figured out what was going on, so we decided to actually do something about it." Stella looks surprised and asks if that's really the only reason. Rain's confused and says, yeah, that's pretty much it." She starts cracking up, saying his attitude is super charming, but then tears start rolling down her face as she says she just wishes she'd done this way sooner. Rain goes up to her, gives her a warm smile, and says, "Hey, it's totally not too late." They both shake hands, and you can just feel the trust building up. Kanade cuts in, cheering happily all, "Yeah, let's totally take down the Lord and those messed up knights." Stella reminds them they need solid proof, or else they'll just get accused of treason. Rain gets this brilliant idea and says they can totally bring everyone down, all at once. They're like, "How?" And Rain just grins, "We'll set a trap." Later that night, everyone gets together to hash out the plan. Stella even brings along a few knights she actually trusts. The next morning, Rain zips off to grab something from Gantz. Meanwhile, at the Order of Knights, someone delivers a message to Gile. That night, they're all up on a roof, and Stella's totally impressed with Rain, saying everything went exactly as he predicted. Runa starts bragging that this is gonna be super easy, but Sora, ever the cautious one, warns her not to jinx it. Rain gives them the official go to kick off the plan. Down below, Gile's hyping up his knights. He tells them there's a rumor about a warehouse jam-packed with proof that the knights are totally in cahoots with the Lord. Gile pretends he doesn't believe it, but warns that if it's true and that proof gets out, it's game over for them and Edgar. Gile orders them to deal with it and make sure Stella and the others have no clue. The knights head to the warehouse, with Gile telling them to destroy whatever's inside the second anyone spots it. They rush into the warehouse, but bam, something hits them. They try to get out, but the door slams shut. Outside, the twins are totally working their magic, casting a spell and sealing those doors tight. Inside the warehouse, the knights are getting pummeled by Rain, who's wielding this wicked gauntlet he asked Gantz to make. Turns out, that's what he zoomed off to collect the morning before the attack. Gantz also mentioned the dagger might take a hot minute to finish. Stella's all, "Nice weapon, Rain." She's super impressed. Rain tries to blast Gile, but Gile, being a boss, counters the attack with his sword, totally shocking everyone. Gile spots the duo, and Stella straight up tells him to surrender. She tells him her squad is already taking over the branch office. She tells Rain they gotta finish this, and Gile finally puts two and two together, realizing he's Rain. Gile then gloats that he's gonna capture him and present him to Edgar. Stella asks Rain to let her take on Gile, and Rain's like, "Go for it." She goes down to face him, and Gile's all, "You're gonna be executed for treason, lady." They start duking it out, but he pulls a fast one, distracts Stella, and lands a hit. Rain yells out, but she just shouts back, "Don't even sweat it." Gile's like, "There's no justice in this messed up world." Stella has this flashback to a younger Gile, someone she totally used to look up to. Stella charges at him, slashes him good, and he hits the dirt. She furiously tells him he ditched justice for pure greed. Back at Edgar's mansion, he hears about Gile and his knights getting busted, and immediately takes out all his rage on that poor young girl, beating her up as he rants. Edgar stops for a sec and boasts he's got tons of guards, so no one can even touch him. Suddenly, Ario's like poofs into the window and says he's a Rain hater, just like Edgar. Only then does Edgar finally realize that Rain and Stella had teamed up to plan this whole takeover. Arios tells him Rain tamed the ultimate species, so Edgar literally stands no chance. He warns Edgar that Rain's still gonna take everything from him and totally trash his lavish lifestyle. Edgar's absolutely livid, yelling that he owns the whole city. Arios hands him this ring and says it brings death to whoever it targets. Edgar looks at it, then lets out this wicked, evil laugh. Arios explains that negative emotions will supercharge the ring's power even more. Then he just vanishes, telling Edgar to go bring death to Rain. Rain. Okay, so the scene totally shifts. We see this cute, young fox-like girl chilling on a porch, relaxing, singing a song, and remembering how super nice everyone here is to her. But wait, next thing you know, it's the same girl, but now she's locked up in a cell, all battered and bruised. Yup, it's the same poor girl Edgar's been using as his personal punching bag. Ugh, she silently whispers, just begging for someone, anyone, to help her. Alright, moving on. Stella and her knights are trying to bust into the Lord's mansion, but the guards are totally trying to stop them. She tells the guards she's there for an inspection. Wink wink. The guards are like, where's Gillette? But Stella's all, oh, Gillette, he just got arrested for corruption. But the guards are still not budging. Kanad and Tanya step up, totally hyping Stella up, saying she's in charge and fights for justice. The two of them just keep gushing about Stella, getting super dramatic about it. Stella's kinda embarrassed and tells them to, like, chill out. She then commands the guards, in the king's name, to step down, but they refuse and call for backup. Suddenly, hundreds of guards pour out, ready to defend the mansion. Kanadi and Tanya are stoked they get to fight. Stella thanks them beforehand for their help, and the girls are all, our pleasure. Inside the mansion, Edgar hears the epic battle raging outside and just grins like a total villain. Then bam, the mansion gate explodes, and Tanya and Kanad just casually walk right in. He sees them and snarls that they're the ones serving Rain. He looks at his shiny new ring and schemes. If I use this to off Rain, then their contract with him ends, and they'll lose their will to fight. So maybe I can be their new master? Rain steps into a dark room with the twins, and he's like, looks like showtime. Turns out, they totally used the chaos outside as a distraction to sneak into the mansion super easily. Rain and Sora are trying to figure out how to rescue the kidnapped girls, but Runa gets way too hyped and starts shouting. Sora quickly shuts her up, reminding her they gotta be quiet. Rain tells them they gotta move, and Runa, again, just shouts in excitement. Sora tries to silence her, again. Runa casts this material search spell, and Sora explains that since all humans have magic, this spell will help them track down the victims and use their magic to zap them right out of the mansion. Rain and Sora then hash out the plan to finally nab Edgar. Runa chimes in, saying she's feeling a huge magic signature below them, which could totally be a kidnapped victim. She also adds that she feels another super powerful magic, and it's definitely not human. She drops the bombshell that their magic is totally on par with theirs. Rain's completely shocked, wondering what an ultimate species is even doing chillin' in this mansion. He tells the twins, alright you two, go rescue those folks. I'm gonna sniff out where all this crazy magic is coming from. The twins are like, Rain, isn't that kinda risky? He just gives them a gentle pat on the head, super sweet, and thanks them for caring. Rain's like, bummer, I can't teleport right now, so I'm kinda useless here. He even apologizes that they have to show their true selves to normies. The girls are totally stumped, like, dude, how are you worried about other people right now? Runa, ever the boss, warns him, you better come back safe or you're gonna get it. Rain, with a confident smile, promises them he'll be totally fine. Next, Rain's on the move, darting towards a door, hunting for that magic source. He busts open the door and bam, sees someone locked up in a cell. Turns out, she's the ultimate species, a demilord no less. Just as she starts to stir, Rain rushes in like a hero, smashes the lock, totally surprising her. He whips out a healing spell, mending all her injuries. He calms her down, tells her she's totally safe, and introduces himself. Then he asks her name, and this poor girl, tears streaming down, just whispers, Nina, and then she just hugs him tight. Okay, hold up, time for a flashback. We're jumping back to when Nina was just a kid and got totally snatched. We see Edgar, looking super creepy, bragging about how he scored an ultimate species. He tries to grab her, but she blasts him with magic, protecting herself like a boss. He totally curses her out. Then he barks orders at his guards, who immediately hold swords to innocent kids, using them to threaten Nina. What a monster! Nina, heartbroken, begs him not to hurt them. He shoves a slave collar at her and tells her to put it on. She puts it on, and just like that, her magic's gone. Then Edgar, the absolute jerk, starts beating her up, mocking her, and laughing like a total villain. Fast forward back to now, Nina finishes her super sad story, telling Rain she's been stuck here all alone, just hurting. Rain tells her she's super strong, giving her a comforting pat on the head. He tries to get that collar off, but she flinches back. Nina's like, no way, the spell's too strong. But Rain reassures her, it's fine, you can trust me. After a beat, she finally agrees. Rain concentrates hard, trying to override the collar's magic, but it pushes back, hurting him, but he's not giving up. Nope. Nina feels terrible and tells him to stop. She's crying, seeing him in pain, telling him to just leave her, saying no one would even miss her anyway. Aw, he holds her close and, with a gentle smile, says he'd totally be sad. Then, it hits him. He remembers all the power-ups the girls gave him, realizing he's not alone in this. He channels all his strength and, boom, breaks that spell. He nearly collapses, completely drained from all that magic. Nina catches him, and as she hugs him tight, she tells him she doesn't want him to suffer, because that would totally make her sad. Meanwhile, outside the mansion, the guards are still desperately trying to protect the place. Tanya's already bored with the whole fight, and Kanade's totally teasing her about it. The guard leader shouts for them to bring out the women, planning to use them as hostages. Seriously? But out of nowhere, fireballs start raining down on the soldiers as the twins make their grand entrance. The twins casually tell them, oh, by the way, we already moved the prisoners to a super safe spot, so you guys can stop holding back now. Tanya cracks her knuckles, totally stoked, and Kanad jumps up and down with excitement as they both go absolutely wild, tearing through the soldiers. Stella tells her knight to round up the guards once they're beaten, while she, being a total boss, heads inside to arrest the Lord's family herself. Edgar, creepy as ever, watches all this from his window. His dad stomps in, demanding to know why Edgar couldn't handle this mess. Edgar tells his dad to bail while he wipes out all the evidence, because without proof, the knights are totally screwed. His dad's happy with that plan and pieces out. Somewhere else in the mansion, Rain's giving Nina a piggyback ride, and the girls totally spot him, calling out his name. He introduces Nina to everyone, and they all just scream in unison. He picked up another girl? Lol, Rain stutters, completely flustered, as they start teasing him mercilessly. Tanya then clarifies, relax, we're just messing with you. The twins already spilled all the deets. They start chatting with Nina, but of course, Runa has to drop another one of her wild comments. Kanad, being Kanad, immediately starts rubbing her face all over Nina's tail, squealing about how fluffy it is. She assures Nina, we got you, girl, before nearly squishing her in a massive hug, and Rain just looks at them all, super happy. Stella gets his attention, giving him props. They both agree, it ain't over till we've got the Lord and his jerk son locked up. Just then, the Lord himself comes running out and sees the whole crew. Stella tells him to give up, but he's all, nope. Rain whips out his gauntlet, ties him up in a flash, and the Lord goes down, face planting. Then Edgar stomps out, points a super creepy ring at Rain, yelling, die! And some super dark magic explodes from the ring, forming a full-on Grim Reaper. Yikes! The Reaper goes straight for Rain, and Kanad tries to stop it, but it lands a hit. Way outside, Arios is watching from afar, totally stoked that his plan went off without a hitch. He's like, finally I can get some decent sleep, and just flies away. Rain opens his eyes, totally baffled that nothing actually happened to him. Kanad, super relieved, gives him a giant happy hug. Everyone else is frantically checking him for wounds, but Rain's like, chill guys, I'm totally fine. Sora, ever the smarty pants, explains that what they just saw was Deathscythe's epic magic, a one-hit kill spell that instantly wipes out anything it touches. Everyone's like, so why didn't Rain just drop dead? They start throwing out theories, but nothing really makes sense. Still, they're just super relieved he's okay. Then Runa, being Runa, tries a poison spell on him. It does nothing, and she cheers in victory, but then Sora, totally fuming, grabs her by the neck and starts yelling at her. Tanya and Kanade join the yell at Runa party when they find out she used poison. Runa, finally getting a word in, explains Rain actually got a secret power from their contract. Status effect nullification. Boom! The girls all have an aha moment, realizing that's exactly why he survived the instant death spell. Runa's super proud of her experiment, but Sora's still not having it, continuing to angrily choke her. Nina's totally freaked out by all the chaos, so Kanade tries to gently calm her down. Rain and Tanya just look at each other and nod. Yep, Sora's pretty intense. Edgar, still up on his balcony, watches all this, and just gets even more insanely jealous of Rain. His rage and jealousy finally boil over, and he smashes the ring, revealing this gross, giant purple blob. It attacks, and swallows him whole. Ew! The blob starts growing, and Rain tries to stop it, blasting it with a fireball, but the thing just hardens up and starts cracking open, and then, a straight-up demon claws its way out. It's like, thanks guys for waking me up. Rain's like, wait a minute, I've seen this thing before. It was the same exact demon that torched his entire village. Uh-oh. The demon, being a total jerk, then says it's gonna kill them all to show its gratitude. So, what's next? The demon is still totally threatening to kill everyone, but then, wham, it just flies right out of the mansion, straight for the town. Rain realizes the demon's real target is the innocent people of the city. Rain tries to be all, don't get involved with the girls, but he turns around and they're all just smiling at him. They got this. He asks Stella to keep an eye on the townspeople and Nina. Nina tries to jump into the fight, but Rain tells her she totally doesn't need to. They all reassure Nina, we got this. Just chill at the mansion, okay? The demon's already tearing it up in the city center, blasting houses left and right, and people are just scattering, trying to find safety. He looks at the people, starts mocking them, and then bam, Kanad delivers a surprise kick, sending him to the ground. He starts trash-talking Rain and his whole crew. Rain tells him he's about to get wrecked, but the demon just laughs in his face. While he's busy gloating, Kanad, Tanya, and Rain all launch a coordinated attack. Rain snags him with the gauntlet, but the demon just instantly breaks free. No biggie. But wait, that was all a diversion. The demon totally missed the twins setting something up right behind him. They blast him with a super powerful beam, and as the smoke clears, the demon just walks out. Not a scratch on him. What? Feeling a little overwhelmed, the demon's like, fine, I'm calling for backup, and summons a bunch of monsters. And the monsters attack, but Rain and his crew just totally wipe them out like it's nothing. Tanya's like, seriously? These monsters are totally useless. But the demon just grins, claiming he can summon endless monsters, and bam, more appear. Kanade tries to take on a monster, but the demon zaps her with a beam. Rain rushes over to check on Kanad, while Tanya, seeing red, charges the demon and unleashes her dragon breath, taking out all the monsters. Rain and the twins use their healing magic on Kanade, and she eventually wakes up. Tanya tries to hit the demon with more dragon breath, but he counters her fire with his own beam, totally overpowering her. Rain rushes to her side to make sure she's okay. Luckily, Tanya wakes up totally fine. The demon then blasts a bunch of beams into the sky, which rain down and blow up houses everywhere, turning the whole city fiery red. This is bad. Rain unleashes a multi-shot fireball, but it doesn't even phase the demon. But it was a distraction Distraction. The twins totally use the chance to zap the demon with a light blade, freezing him for a quick sec. Rain then power-ups Tanya and Kanad, telling them to finish the demon off. The two hit him over and over with super fast attacks, and Kanad tries to land the final, epic blow. But unfortunately, the demon is still perfectly fine. Seriously? He just flicks his finger, and suddenly, dozens more monsters pop up. Then he just bails, flying away, planning to wreck the rest of the city while they're busy fighting his monster army. Tanya tries to chase him, but he just blocks her. Rain then gets an idea, but realizes that in the meantime, the monsters would totally be attacking innocent people. Rain was totally frustrated because he had no clue how to help everyone. But then Sora stepped in saying, "Hey, we can totally help," and Runa, quick as a flash, suggested using teleport magic to zap people to safety. Rain thought that was a genius idea, but he was kinda worried about revealing the girls' true identities. They just brushed it off though, telling him they did not mind at all, and that they wanted to protect the city just as much as he did. Rain was super happy they were so willing to jump in. Alright, shifting gears a bit, over in their fancy digs we see Arios and his squad chilling. Agath and Mina are like, "Yo, should not we be out there fighting?" But Arios just brushes them off, saying, "Nah, our only enemy is the Demon King." Lean totally backs him up, thinking it is probably just some silly rumor. But Agath is still wondering, what if it is true though? What if a demon did show up? Arios gets all huffy and asks if they are questioning his judgment as a hero, and they quickly say no. Little did they know, Arios knew a demon was sealed in that ring, but all he could think about was offing Rain. He was super confident Rain would not escape his instant death spell. Back with Stella and the Knights, they are working their butts off trying to secure an evacuation route for the civilians. But they are seriously stressed because the monsters are just too strong, and they are worried about getting totally overwhelmed. Stella, being the awesome leader she is, gives this inspiring speech to pump everyone up. But wait, the twins cut her off. They are like, "Hey, we can just magic everyone out of here." Stella totally agrees to help, and the girls thank her before she zips off to gather more people for the magical express. The twins then tell Nina not to worry, promising to protect her as they start getting their spell ready. Meanwhile, Tanya and Kanade are still kicking butt, fighting demons and clearing a path for some townspeople to escape. But get this, the monsters just keep on coming, more and more every single time. Stella comes back with a whole crowd of people, explaining that this magic circle will totally zap them to safety. But then, everyone sees the twins, realizes they are fairies, and starts whispering and totally refuses to step into the circle. The twins get super sad because nobody believes them. Suddenly, the hot dog guy from last time, yes, that hot dog guy, walks up and asks how his delicious dogs were. The girls tell him they were amazing, and he just casually walks right into the circle. Then the little girl who thought they were so pretty also steps in, and before you know it, more and more people are joining. The girls successfully teleport everyone out safely. No biggie. Stella tries to get more people to step in, but a knight yells out that monsters are there, making everyone freak out. Sora quickly tells Runa to go handle those monsters while she focuses on the teleporting. Rain and the squad were getting super tired, completely outnumbered by those relentless monsters. But just when it looked like they were about to get totally swamped, guess who shows up? Those dudes Tanya totally walloped back on Stride Bridge. They came to help out. They told Rain they were not alone and spilled the tea on what went down at the guild. Natalie had basically rallied all the adventurers, saying Rain's party needed backup as soon as possible. She warned that without their help, Horizon City might be a goner since the hero party was Mia. Then Gantz rolled in and offered weapons to anyone brave enough to fight. Every single adventurer agreed to help, no questions asked. The guys who just arrived held off the monsters like total champs, giving Rain's party an opening to push forward while they stayed behind to handle the rest. And Rain was so incredibly grateful everyone was putting in so much effort to save the day. Back at the teleportation station, Stella and a knight are holding off monsters like bosses. Sora is still busy teleporting people non-stop, and Runa? She is blasting monsters away with her magic, keeping them at bay. Nina looks around, seeing everyone putting in work, but she is totally because she really does not want to hurt anyone or get hurt herself. Sora turns around, but wait, she cannot find Nina anywhere. Rain tries to cast a spell, but the Demon Lord is still way too far away. He is like, "I gotta get right up in his face." Kanad suggests Tanya turn into a dragon and fly him over there, but Tanya says her dragon form is not stable, and if she attacks from far off, those monsters will just block her again. She then asks about teleportation, and Tanya tells her they need instant teleportation, and the twins cannot do that. But wait, Nina interrupts them, running up to hug Rain and saying she wants to help. Kanade and Tanya suddenly get this genius idea and tell Rain that Nina can totally do the instant teleportation spell. Rain explains to Nina that he needs to get to the demon, and Nina, brave as ever, says she can do it. The two girls tell Rain to go on, saying they will handle the monster horde. They pump him up, telling him they believe in him. Rain scoops up Nina and just dashes off. The demon is all like, "What is this dude trying to pull solo?" and tries to attack, but Rain totally dodges. The demon keeps attacking, but Rain's dodging skills are on point. Then the demon sends this giant beam their way, but bam, Nina instantly teleports them right to the demon's side, totally shocking him. Nina keeps zipping them around, making the demon look like a total fool. Rain hypes himself up as the demon keeps mocking him. The demon sends his minions, but Rain appears in front of him and casts a spell. The demon's power almost overwhelms Rain, but he remembers his friends, focuses, and makes the spell work, straight up stealing control of of the monsters from the demon. The demon cannot even believe what just happened. The girls below are going wild, cheering Rain on as they watch. The demon breaks free from the binding spell and tries to attack again, but Rain sends the monsters to attack him instead, and they take him down as a huge light explodes in the sky. As he vanishes, the demon asks Rain for his name, but Rain just refuses to tell him. Rain watches as the demon completely disappears. Gone. Just then, Nina totally passes out and they start falling. But do not worry, Tanya swoops in and catches them just in time. They all stand together, watching the beautiful sunrise. It was not perfect, but Rain was just so happy they managed to keep the city safe. 3 days later, everyone is pitching in to rebuild the city, like a huge community project. Stella got a big promotion. She is the new captain now. Congrats, girl. Those knights who were in cahoots with Edgar? Yeah, they got sent to the capital for punishment. Good riddance. Stella tried to check on Nina's village, but turns out everyone moved out after Nina was taken. Kanade has been super helpful with the rebuilding effort. Tanya thought her dragonoid secret was safe, but lol, turns out everyone already knew way back when. Runa and Sora are totally fitting in, and yep, they still love their hot dogs. Rain is now officially the city's champion, even though he is all like, nah, I am just an ordinary beast tamer. But the girls know he is something super special. We catch Rain's party having a little meeting. Nina pipes up, saying she really wants Rain to have a contract with her too. Rain, being the sweet guy he is, totally agrees and does the spell. Then Nina says her name to seal the deal. Kanade literally jumps with excitement and hugs Nina. Then everyone else piles on, almost squishing poor Nina. Later, Rain meets up with Stella at the guild to talk about working together. Before, the guild wanted nothing to do with knights, but now that Stella is captain, they are totally on board. The whole team congratulates Stella on her new gig, and they keep chatting about everything that went down. Stella gives a heartfelt thanks to everyone for their help. Nathalie then pulls Rain aside, saying the guild has some important stuff to talk about with him. She drops the bombshell. He has been promoted to Chimera rank, totally skipping D rank because he is just that awesome. Rain is like, wait, why? And Nathalie explains he exposed the Lord and took down an A rank demon. Plus, Stella and other adventurers gave him glowing recommendations. Rain tries to be all humble, but Tanya just flicks his forehead and tells him to accept the honor already. All the girls chime in, saying he totally deserves it and he is way too modest. Nathalie also mentions he is getting a fat check for all his hard work. Rain, being the best, tells the girls they can have anything they want because they are going to have a huge feast to celebrate. The girls are just chattering away happily, planning their celebratory feast. Natalie notices Nina, and Rain introduces them. Natalie gets all excited and quickly hugs Nina, but then she realizes Nina is a demilord. She worries if Nina is mad at her for treating her like a kid, but Nina reassures her she is totally not angry. Rain then tells Natalie their current room is way too small for 6 people and asks for her advice. Natalie suggests he buy a house, explaining the guild acts as property agents and even gives subsidies, especially for talented adventurers like him. Rain asks the girls what they think, and they all agree it is a super good idea. Rain agrees too, and the girls are absolutely thrilled. Later that day, they check out a bunch of houses, but none of them cut it. Natalie says this is the last one she'll show them. She swears it has everything they asked for, and it's inside their budget. Everyone asks why she didn't show them this one first. If it's so great, they think she's hiding something. Natalie admits the house is haunted. Kanade screams like crazy, and Tanya teases her. Kanade warns that physical attacks won't work on ghosts. Natalie explains the ghost's antics, flipping pillows, making the bathwater cold, swapping sugar for salt, putting rotten eggs in shoes, rubbing curry on clothes, basically a mischievous nightmare. Nobody's wanted to buy the place because of that. Kanade's terrified, but she agrees to take a look. They all go inside. Natalie refuses to come in with them. Upstairs, Nina sneezes and everyone freaks out. They notice the place is way too clean for a haunted house. Then everything starts shaking. A woman, Tina, suddenly appears and tells them to get out. Kanade screams. The twins throw some magic at her and hope it sticks, but Tina gets angrier and comes back. The twins start brainstorming spells, but Tina just throws a tantrum and keeps yelling at them to leave. Tanya realizes she can't hurt Tina. Tina decides to mess with Kanade, popping up right in front of her. Kanade loses it and screams uncontrollably. Tina keeps picking on her, and at some point Kanade snaps, attacking like a wounded cat. She even rips the woman's clothes. They're stunned, but somehow Kanade's fear hits a breaking point, and she's finally able to hurt the ghost. Suddenly it's the ghost who's being hunted. Kanade chases her relentlessly while Tina begs. The twins cast a spell and form a barrier to trap Tina. Tanya grabs Kanade and calms her down. Kanade returns to normal and doesn't remember what she did. Tina tries to attack Rain, but he stretches his hands out and tames her. She freezes in midair. Rain explains that when he was young, someone in his village taught him about phantom taming. Tina screams that doesn't explain how he can control ghosts. She tries to grab him again but falls flat. She says she gives up and tells Rain he can burn her, but Rain just introduces himself politely and offers his hand, saying he only wants to talk. She laughs and calls him a weirdo. Later, the ghost introduces herself as Tina Holy. She used to be a maid in another city, died 30 years ago, and ended up here. She says she's not tied to any one location. Tanya asks how she became a ghost. Tina says her boss was a total goofy and killed her. Rain asks Tina what she wants to do, since she couldn't drive them out. Tina says she planned to leave and apologizes for the trouble. Rain asks Kanade if she's still of Tina. She says yes, but if everyone's with her, maybe she could get along with Tina. Rain pats her on the head. He tells Tina to stay with them. Having her around makes the house cheaper. Tina is surprised, decides to stay, but still doesn't fully trust him. Tanya adds that Rain's just kind to a fault. Everyone welcomes Tina and says she can stay. Tina agrees happily. Later, Rain signs the house contract at the guild. Natalie praises him for convincing a ghost to join them. Kanad mentions they're having a housewarming party later, so everyone's busy. Rain says they need to run errands, and Natalie adds that Horizon is now his home. He gets emotional. At the market, Arios tries to get fruit from a shop. He tells the shopkeeper he's low on funds, so it has to be free. The townspeople are already glaring at him. His companions make smug, degrading comments. The shopkeeper apologizes and says he's got nothing to give. Arios gets mad and starts rambling about being on a journey to save the world, and the man snaps back that they didn't even help save Horizon. Lean tells Arios they should go somewhere else, but another woman says no one here will hand out freebies. The crowd starts calling him names and mocking him for hiding during the attack. Arios draws his sword and smashes a stall, then walks away with his friends following. Someone in the crowd mentions Rain, and Arios gets even more fired up. That evening, Rain and Kanad come back from the market carrying tons of gifts they received. They talk on the way home, and when they reach the door, Kanad runs ahead and stands there saying, "Welcome home." Rain is so happy to finally have a place to call home. During dinner, everyone praises Tina and Runa for cooking so much food, though Tina says she can't taste it because she followed the recipe exactly. Runa brags a bit about helping. Kanade and Tanya bicker over meat and fish. Nina thanks Rain, and everyone turns to look at her. She says she's not alone anymore. Rain remembers his lost home and how empty he felt before meeting them, and the other girls thank him too. Tina says they're lucky, and they tell her she's one of them now, so she's not alone. Rain thinks about traveling with the hero party and how hollow it felt, but meeting the girls filled something he even thinks about his parents. Everyone notices tears rolling down his face. He awkwardly says hunger made him cry, and the girls cheerfully offer him more food.